No time to be shy, no time to be shy. Open your heart and give him the praise. Got this feeling that I can't resist. It's on my mind, on my mind. No matter what I do, I can't resist. Every time, yeah. My hands start waving, my feet start moving, my body start dancing. All over my soul, you're taking control. So I wanna let it out there. You gotta let it out. The presence from your mouth. You gotta let it out. Come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Give him total expression when you come in this session with your hands and your mouth. Everybody come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Oh, na, 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 na. When you was a sinner, you was acting crazy. Now you come to church and you're acting lazy. Have to beg you to lift up your hands. But if you understand all the things that God has done for you, how He brought you through, there is nothing else I want to do. No, to lift my hands and give Him praise. Everything He raised, I am so amazed. You gotta let it out. The presence from your mouth. You gotta let it out. Come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Give Him total expression when you come in this session with your hands and your mouth. Everybody come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my hands, I will clap. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my feet, I will dance. Yeah, yeah. You gotta let it out. The presence from your mouth. You gotta let it out. Come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Give Him total expression when you come in this session with your hands and your mouth. Everybody come, express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself. Total. So when you come in this session, no. So when you come in this session, no. Express yourself. Express yourself. Express yourself.
Please And a great, great good evening to all of you joining us this Monday, September the 15th, on the Marcia Week Show. It is my pleasure, Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, to host this show tonight. And I look forward to an educational night, Emma, motivational, the night that is going to be educational, motivational. I got to really get these things done. That I can get all of them right out and straight. But sometimes, your memory is taken up with so many different things. But I'll get it. I'm not too worried about that. But let me welcome you to the show tonight. It's a pleasure to have all of you joining us, and a real joy to be able, as I said, to host this show tonight. We have just listened to our national anthem, and I want us now to recite together our national pledge. And this is the commitment that we make to our country. And it says, and I quote, "I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go." So pleasure to have you joining us tonight. This is indeed our land, land of fields and hills beyond recall that are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. That's not the commitment that the government makes, that's the commitment the people of this country make to our nation and to our flag. We are here to educate, let me see if I get it right now, mobilize, motivate, and agitate. I think I have that, excuse me, correct. Educate, mobilize, motivate, and agitate. This is why we are here. We are here to keep any administration on its toes and to make it fulfill its commitments to the people of this country. And we will continue to do so as long as the good Lord gives us strength. And I want to comment on a few things tonight, but before I do, I want us to watch just a couple of videos because I believe the two videos that you're going to watch back to back, and I'm going to just interject in between the two of them, will help you to explain where I am going in my comments at the beginning of this show. So, Dave, if you would be kind enough to play that first video, I would appreciate it so very much. Thank you, sir.
You know, in the name of my children and my grandchild, that I want to live in a country where there's freedom of expression. That I want to live in a country where no despot can feel that they should hold the destiny of my children and my grandchild in their hands. And that Mayor Motley is a menace. She's a menace because she's a despot. She's a menace because she's a despot, believes that she has a right to be a despot. She would try to be a despot with me. And I want to end by saying this. My parents sent me to school so that I should not be a boy in the yard for any despot in this country. And I will be true to them and true to my children by fighting this despotism that is taking.
The voices of accountability. This beacon encourages every Bajan to speak up and take responsibility when they see something going wrong in this country, in their community, in their houses, in their jobs. It embodies the idea that accountability isn't just for leaders, but for every citizen. Tanya Stevens reminds us of corruption in high and low places only to remind us that because we have a colonial mentality, we see only the oppression that is above us and not the oppression that is among us, creating a culture of silence in the face of patent wrongdoing is not just acceptable, it is dangerous and it is destructive. And speaking up respectfully and more importantly, speaking truth becomes a civic duty of every citizen of this country and everyone who chooses to want to live among us, even though not a citizen. This applies, my friends, to whether we're talking about what happens in our home, our workplace, the church, the community, or even the block, especially the block. There is nothing to be gained through remaining silent when we know better, and to say it shoulda, it coulda, I didn't. Regret cannot be the platform to this country's stability, harmony, or prosperity.
Now, you just listened to two prime ministers, one with a 14-year tenure, in which the current prime minister was a member of his cabinet. And you listened to his description of the current leader. Those are not my words. I do not know the current leader as well as the previous leader, who is now deceased, God rest his soul. He knew her better than I did. He knew her in cabinet, and he knew her as a person. He knew her as his Minister of Education. He knew her as his Attorney General. And it is telling in my mind that with the knowledge, and I believe he had that knowledge even prior to the 14 years of his prime ministership of this country, it would be remiss of me if I ignored what his assessment was. So I am not here to charge the current prime minister with anything. I am here to listen to a well-informed, very educated, exceptionally experienced politician and former prime minister who made an assessment of that individual. But I think I may have hurried into the session tonight and forgotten my manners. So before I proceed any further, let me stop and welcome as many of you as I can by name. Let me give you at least that respect before I hustle into what I have to share with you tonight. Let me welcome Lena Bell and Sir Alfred Benjamin, M. Gardner, Patricia Green, great to have you with us. Of course, Marcia, you know I could not get through tonight without you being here with me to help me on my national anthem. Marva Hunt and Jacqueline Aline, thank you for being here tonight. Patricia Green, Judy Dotting Jilts, Joyanne Faith, Cameron Hardin, all of you, welcoming every single one of you. Mavis Lashley, Joyanne, Born Again, look you there, Mildred Ben, Queen D, Andrea Critchler, Dalton Spencer. Welcome, Dalton. Nice to have you with us tonight. Houston Fields and Sandra Charles. If I call you twice, probably because I can't remember that I called you once. Ryan Rock and Patricia Green, Sandra Brewster. Now, I know a lot of you all are going to know about MORTAR and PESTLE. So when you look at the heading for the show tonight and you see more in the MORTAR than the PESTLE, I know you all know what it means. And incidentally, I'm not suggesting that all of you are like old folk. Please don't get me wrong. You are very young. Some of us are 20 years old with 40 years of experience, and some of us are 30 years old with 50 years of experience, and some of us are 25 years old with 25 years of experience. So I'm not suggesting for any moment that any of you are old. So please don't get me wrong, right, Bonnie? And Lucinda Aline, welcome to the show tonight. Callie B, really nice to have you. Really nice to have you on the show tonight as well. I think I saw Teroni at some point. If I haven't, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Sandra Brewster, Sharon Ennis, nice to have you with us tonight. Hurricane, look at you there, man. Hurricane Writer, great to have you. CD, and let me see anybody I might have missed there. Well, so Alfred, you know, it's always a joy to have you on the show. A real pleasure to have all of you. And if I missed your name, please don't hold it against me in the days to come. All right. And incidentally, let me just say thank you. Let me really, on a little serious note, let me just say thank you on behalf of my wife for all of the support you have been giving her. To all of you who have donated to her cause, to her life, I want to thank you so very, very, very much on her behalf. And of course, you know, I'm exceptionally grateful for all that you all have considered to do where she is concerned. I am deeply, deeply appreciative. I also want to thank Dave and Marcia for their support, you know, in this whole thing, giving me the opportunity to showcase the GoFundMe page here and I really want to thank them for that. And of course, I know they can probably put it in the chat that if you're interested and you have not done so before, and you do have an interest in supporting her medical expenses, hopefully we'll be doing something toward the end of the month. We've been in touch with several facilities and trying to finalize arrangements. She has a medical appointment tomorrow. Keep her in your prayers, please. But I want to say thank you for all of your support, and most importantly, your prayers. And just let me very quickly in passing continue to ask you to keep praying for the family of Mr. Kirk in the US. I'm not going to engage on any banter with that, just that it is always concerning when people who cannot appreciate an opposing view take such violent action against an individual. And I'm hearing some rumblings here in Barbados, and I hope that we never see that here in the country. All right, so keep them in your prayers as well, and I'm deeply appreciative not only for your financial donations, but most importantly for your prayers. So let me get back to what I wanted to talk with you about tonight as you listen to those two opening videos that you have watched, one by a former prime minister, one by the current prime minister. Now, one of the things that the former prime minister said, and I made a note, is that he has no intention of being a boy in the yard for any despot. And I have no intention of being a boy in the yard for any despot either. We have a situation in this country where there are those in governance who seem to think that they have a right to intimidate anybody who opposes them and who has a difference of opinion. And I want to call out a few things tonight. You heard some of the comments made by the current prime minister, in which she said to speak up. Everybody has to give account. There's accountability required by the leaders, and there's accountability required by the citizens. We get that. But we are not seeing the accountability as citizens we expect to see from our leaders. And in giving that accountability, let me give a couple of examples. We have a public accounts committee that has not met on serious financial matters to do with the government, having been identified by the accountant, the accountant general, whatever his official terminology is. We haven't heard anything with regards to the Public Accounts Committee meeting to give an account to the country, not to the leader of the opposition, to the country, of your stewardship of the finances of this country. And I want to comment on something to do with Carifesta, because I want this government to understand that the money you are using does not belong to you. It doesn't even belong to the people of Barbados, to be brutally frank, because we're in so much debt that I would be surprised if the majority of the money being spent in this country actually is raised via taxes. I am not an economist and I am not an accountant. But one thing I will say is that it is troubling when we hear certain comments being made by the leader of this country, whom the previous leader had to identify as a reckless user of the party's finances at that time. And as far as I can recall, there's an old saying, a leopard can't change his spots. That's what I'm told, except you give your life to Jesus Christ. He's the only person that can change a leopard's spot. They didn't say leper, leopard. Okay, so don't go and say call anybody a leper. I am using a proverb that has been around for years. Okay, so she says everybody has to be accountable. You campaigned on a promise of transparency and accountability, yet when you are questioned, you get on as if nobody can question you. You are going to, as I am reading here from extract of her speech over the weekend, at some point in the next few months, she's going to call out all the people who have been, opposing or commenting or criticizing or examining the performance of the government and the performance of the prime minister. I have kept very quiet, but this country is at risk of flirting with danger because others who are envious of success are trying to pull it down. Nobody is trying to pull down Barbados. Let me be very clear. This show is not pulling down Barbados. We are holding the Prime Minister and the Barbados Labour Party government to account. Their feet are being held to the fire. That is what we are doing. Nobody's pulling down this country. But it is time the people outside this country know the truth, so that when you get somebody smiling up and talking a lot of rubbish on the international arena, making you think that all is well in her country, you are going to know otherwise, because we don't like deceivers and liars when they speak and make things appear to be what they are not. The people in this country are not happy. They are not satisfied. They are not comfortable. When they go into the supermarket, don't come to me and talk to me about millions of dollars that are being borrowed, or our economic position as it relates to being able to borrow. Don't come to me talking that rubbish, because the people of the country here in Barbados are not benefiting from any ease as a result of the borrowing of millions of dollars. We are still seeing increasing prices in the supermarkets. And as a matter of fact, the central bank governor has warned us of increasing prices in the country. And now we have the CEO or whatever her official title is of the Barbados Workers Union telling us that the private sector, the merchants, are not passing on the savings to the people, as if we didn't know that ever since. We know that ever since. We know that. We are aware that when oil prices drop, that nothing comes down in this country. We are aware of that. We are aware that the prices go up even before the oil prices and gasoline prices go up. We are aware of that. We are aware that from the time the President of the United States of America started to suggest tariffs, that prices started going up in this country, and nothing had yet been officially done or passed by the President of the United States. And things that have been executed by the president would not have affected what already exists in the stock in this country. And we saw prices going up. So we are well aware of the fact that that is how merchants operate. But the government has the ability, if you have a private sector partnership with the public sector, you have the capacity to haul them into a meeting and tell them, get them prices down or else. Because you have the capacity to penalize them through economic means and through taxation means if they don't bring those prices down. This is not a joke. And then, to add insult to injury, we have the situation arising where the current Prime Minister was exceptionally opposed to increasing value-added tax in Barbados by the previous administration, which the smiley Minister of Finance at the time, whose voice I heard today, and I had to smile because it was a smiley person, he said it was temporary. Then they made it permanent. And this administration opposed it, came to office. And you would have thought that because you oppose something, when you come to the place where you have the power, where you have the capacity to do something about it, you did nothing. As a matter of fact, you added insult to injury by claiming to ease things off of the people in Barbados who own vehicles as it relates to paying their taxes and their road taxes and so on, and apply a percentage at the fuel pump, which we know is raking in millions of dollars more than if we were paying road taxes. Under the guise, well, you won't have to pay this full amount at one shot or whatever. But we were doing it all the time. We were doing it all of the time. Nothing has happened. Prices are going up, and the government has not come to the people and said, look, we understand what is happening. We are doing so and so and so and so. And what we're going to do is that we're going to reduce that VAT back to 15% to give a little ease. But you are going to put in a basket of goods which are going to be VAT zero rated. And you are deciding for the people what they are going to get, which is how this administration functions. They make the decisions for the people without consultation with anybody in the public. I ain't talking about the public sector and the private sector. These private sector people know that at the end of the day is profit. They don't care about nothing but the end of the day profit. That is business. They're not in business to be a charity. They're in business to make money. So it is up to the government that we elected, a minority of us, mind you, 30-something%, near 40%, of which the government did not get 100%. But they got enough percent to give them 30 seats. And because they have 30 seats, doesn't mean they had a massive landslide. The landslide is only in the context of how many seats. But when you count the amount of votes, you better go back and check and see how things were. Then you make the comment about creating a culture of silence is dangerous and something else. But you want to silence every voice that raises a concern in this country regarding your stewardship. You listen, I want to get something very clear to this government and to this prime minister. We are your employers. You work for us. We pay your salaries. You work for us. We do not work for you. I find that far too often, and I'm finished with partisan politics. I'm fed up of it, because when people get into office, to forget that they're servants and not governors and not managers and not the rulers. That's what they forget. You take an oath to serve the people. And I am not going to give you credit for anything which is your job. People want to talk to me about giving the Minister of Communication and Works or the Minister of Public Works or whatever credit for lighting and road. That's your job. I don't get credit for doing my job. I get credit for doing something above and beyond what I am supposed to do. But if you are employed by me to be the Minister of Health, you are supposed to do your job and make sure that the aspects of health in this country are pristine. If you're the Minister of Tourism, you are not going to be paid any special attention. We are paying you a salary to do your job. It's your job. There's not another sector in the world, in the private sector, where anybody gets any special until they're going into retirement. When they're going into retirement, they get all kinds of accolades. They get watches. Some people may get some money. Some may get a plaque or something. But they don't get any credit for doing their job. And that's what you are employed by the people of Barbados to do your job. And if you are not in this country doing your job, you are derelict in your duty. Your responsibility is this country, not the World Economic Forum, not the climate change promoters, not any other organization or entity in this world. You are not supposed to be representing them. That is why we take serious offense to the fact that when you are in a global environment, you don't even wear our national flag. Why are you embarrassed to put the national flag of Barbados on your chest? But you prefer to wear a Sustainable Development Gold pin because you no longer work for the people of this country. You work for the people of a sustainable thing. And you're going to come out and tell me you have kept quiet, but this country is at risk. Well, I can tell you, you said silence. You said silence is dangerous. Creating a culture of silence is dangerous. So we ain't going to be silent. We are going to talk. And I'm going to talk for just a couple of minutes that I have. As I don't even have a couple of minutes left before I bring on my first guest. But let me say this. Prime Minister is making the comment that it would be foolish or reckless to give an account before of Carifesta before everything is tabulated. Ma'am, you should have had a budget. You allocated $4 million to Carifesta. That is what you did. Your government allocated $4 million, and I don't know if you've been back to ask for additional funds to back up what you may have overrun in terms of overruns where this current Carifesta festival is concerned. I don't know. You talk about the costs. You can't compare the costs where you look at the benefits. We get it. But by the same token, nobody in business embarks on a project without a proper budget so that they know by the end of the project, they don't have to wait long. That you should have been able within the week of the conclusion of Carifesta with all the digital capability available in this world today to give the people of Barbados an account for the expenditure of Carifesta to show us what are the benefits based on the expenses that have gone into this. And I talk to taxi people who tell me they did not benefit one dime from Carifesta. But all the big coaches benefited from Carifesta. I could go on for a long time, but I don't want to dig into my first guest right to be here, and that is my wonderful friend, um, my wonderful friend Rose Corbin. So, Rose, I want to welcome you to the show tonight. I hope everything with you is working good. Your audio is working good. You're hearing me good. I'm going to get out of the way and not rob you of any more than the 30 seconds I have already taken away from your time. Welcome, Rose. It's nice to have you on the show with me tonight.
It's always a pleasure, Pastor Furley. And I would begin by saying, as I always do, good evening to the loyal sons and daughters all, firm craftsmen and women of her faith here in Barbados and beyond our shores. And I am very pleased to be here again with you this Monday evening. I was backstage listening to you and I said, oh, he set a fiery trail for me to follow. Uh, um,
I thought you were going to tell me I was looking over your shoulder, peeping at your notes.
it was fiery, but it sets the tone for what I have decided at a last minute to share. I wanted to continue on education matters, and I did all my prep. And but today something in the news just shifted my focus and bothered me
Uh huh.
and Pastor Purdy, I'm doing it. Yes, no war about here. No
Oh,
war about here.
okay.
And I was saying, wow. And there's the Prime Minister's picture. She looked lovely with her red lipstick, And I was saying, the Prime Minister is refreshed from all of her. She doesn't look like she has jet lag, and she is.
But she did mention over the weekend that she wasn't well on one of the segments of her trip.
And that she's back at her fingers, she's got her thumb on things and she's got things buttoned down. And I said, I agree. When I saw the headline, no war boat here, you know,
Hmm.
and I said, I agree with you. Too much of that is happening. Now,
Yes.
let me
Yes.
hear your solutions. You might have picked up something on your trip overseas. You had, a eureka moment. The light bulb went off. This is what we're going to do in Barbados to stop this.
Yes. Yes.
And then my surprise. I want to send you ask Dave if he would play that clip for me. When I read the newspaper article, I said, no, no, no. Madam Prime Minister was probably, as joking. She was probably, just pause it a minute. She was probably, that was tongue in cheek. But I realized that it was not tongue in cheek, it was serious. So
Hmm.
my response is a very serious one. This is not facetious. This is not being facetious. This is not being tongue in cheek. This is not being light. This is not giving you a comedic moment. This is my serious response. And please know, Dave, because I thought the press got it wrong. So,
Okay.
they had to go to my source. So I went on YouTube and I Googled for the AGM St. George North BLP meeting, I put in, make sure he got it right. And I read the transcript. So the transcript is chock-a-block with lots of information that I will read later. But this is it as the press reported. So please play it, and we can talk some more about it as I go through my segment.
I can bet on certain things, but there's certain things I will not and shall not bend on. And gunplay, and that is one of them. I'm telling you that we have to find a way of making sure that the handful of people who feel that it is theirs to torment and to terrify communities in this country are invited to go to another country or to put it down. There are places where war exists. If war is your business and you like it, I am sure we can find a way to get you involved in the wars over there.
You heard that.
I heard.
You heard that. And if those of you may read it again, I am telling you that we have to find a way of making sure that a handful of people who feel that it is their right to torment and terrify communities in this country are invited to go to another country. That is the solution. There are places where war exists. So if war is your business and you like it, I am sure we, who is the we, I am sure we can find a way to get you involved in the wars over there, but not in Barbados. This comes, and it is in all seriousness now, this comes from, I respect the Prime Minister. I am adhering to the scripture. You remember Pastor Ferdy when Daniel went to the King Nebuchadnezzar, who was not a nice king. He said, "Oh, King Nebuchadnezzar, live forever."
Live forever.
I am not going to disrespect the Prime Minister. I have a scriptural responsibility to respect those in leadership, but I will not accept the handling of the people's business in this manner.
Right.
In this manner. And we are hearing that I was waiting for the solution. And the solution comes. We can find a place to send you to. If you want to be a war, this is supposed to be coming from the leader of our country and a leader who goes on international platform and speak. And this is the flippant way. I call it flippant. And what's the opposite of serious? Let's say non-serious. A non-serious way of addressing
Shoki.
something as serious
Yes.
as crime. So we used to export our people to go to England, send them overseas to go to England to help rebuild the country after the World War II. We sent them, they formed a critical role in education, nursing, transportation, rebuilding in Britain. We are known to send our youth and our people overseas to help build up other countries. You would know the Cayman. You would know the Cayman in Bermuda.
Yes.
In the other territories, and in Europe.
And Canada.
Canada, definitely. Yes. In America, we have sent them. And here we are now saying, if you can't stop being uh, involved in crime and violence and you're terrorizing, we can send you. We will find a place to send you. So if you are not good enough for Barbados, we're going to send the worst elsewhere. I'm taking this serious, because the Prime Minister is purported and presented as one of the most serious leaders, not in the Caribbean, but in the world. And this is what is being offered. I'm not pleased. I am not pleased. And I won't comment on it right now, but I am not pleased with this response. Is this another knee-jerk reaction?
Sure sounds that way.
And did nobody speak to it at the meeting? Well,
No.
here I am putting it out there. This is not the solution. And Pastor Purdy, let us look to see where these persons can be sent off to, where wars exist. And my quick research showed me the following. So put up quickly, if you can, the two slides document I sent you. And this ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Should we take it as a light-hearted moment? But it is within that context that the Prime Minister talks about that advisory committee that is being set up with Michael Lashley as the vice chair, I think. And the Prime Minister, as always instructive, is saying that rebuking, and you would see it on that page that you put up too. The Prime Minister was rebuking here the opposition making
Yes.
a mistake. The opposition is
Yes.
making a mistake from
To
not
this
being
country.
part of that 20-person commission. That is a very too big a commission, I find, to speak on matters pertaining to crime and advice on crime and come with solutions. And the Prime Minister is instructing that Verla de Pisa, who led the commission, the DLP, before to a stakeholders meeting sometime back, that was brought together under this administration. Verla Pisa back then, Mr. Pisa back then, attended that that meeting. Now she is instructing the DLP, but more so instructing Miss De Pisa, whose leader said that they will not be part of it. She's instructing Miss De Pisa, or indicating to Miss De Pisa, or intimating, notice my words, to Miss De Pisa, that she would wish that Mr. Pisa would meet with this advisory commission. I said, out of order, lax protocol. If your
Yes. Yes.
political leader says we are not going to be part of this, how can you be inviting someone publicly who is in the hierarchy of that particular party to what's the word? Not disobey, but go against the decision of your leader. Would that have happened, or would that be allowed to happen if that was thrown out to her deputy prime minister, one, her cabinet minister, even a backbencher by the DLP leader. Would that be acceptable? No. We know what would be the response. That person would be fired, and this is the way, and we're synonymous with firing on that side means asked to resign or resign. And here you are. I thought that was presumptuous. This
And
protocol.
disrespectful, and totally disrespectful.
And you have added that word because it seems as though this evening I'm running out of words because I'm so smitten by the response from the Prime Minister and her solution. If you want a solution and you are void of solutions and responses, and you have to wait until this 20-person commission meets and ideas are generated and the report produced. There is a report, 146-page report called The Blueprint to Rescue a Nation. And I am saying here, I am not a DLP supporter. I've voted for the DLP. I've voted for the BLP. But in recent times, since I offered myself in 2018 as a candidate with Solutions Barbados, neither party has received my vote. And I'm honest with that. And here is a DLP report. I've looked through it. I've listened to the breakdown on the DLP television. I've read summaries. And there is a 146-page report called The Blueprint to Rescue a Nation. And it was chaired by the same Miss Verla de Pisa.
Correct.
So your solution should not be that flippant, I call it flippant, response that you will send these people where war exists. I've still got a few more minutes, Pastor Ferdy.
Yes, you do.
Put up that list and let's see where she intends to send the nation's youth. Because if you look at those who have been arrested for gun violence and caused much of the murders, there are what? Young boys. So where are you going to send them? Here's the pick. You've got it?
I don't have it up. I sent it to Dave. I'm trying to see if we can get it up on the screen for you. But you can go ahead sharing until we're able to do that.
But
It's one of my challenges. It's one of my challenges handling the technology.
Same here, sir. You're not alone.
Oh, dear
You are
Lord, how
not
do I get
alone.
these things done? One of these days, somebody's going to sit me down and show me how to do it.
You're not alone. But this is amongst other things. And I could speak on the reprimand about not asking for the reprimand to the leader of the opposition who has decided that they will not be part of that activity, when there are other serious matters like that the public accounts committee. Why not hasten to have that comment and give us some findings and reports? Here we're hearing this is Pastor Ferdy. And my thing is, and this is my response, my caption, ship them out, export them. How do you feel as a leader seeing this? That is wrong.
Wow.
And the young people now going to be making sport. I know my young people. I know them.
Oh,
And they remember me. And they know that I am really serious about youth. And they will be making sport and say, man, the prime minister, the prime minister said that she know where war is. And she shipped me out. She shipped me out. If you know where these young people are, make the necessary meaningful intervention, whether punitive or seeking to reform their lives. But you know where they are. Pastor Ferdy, could you look at some of the places she could think of? Yemen. Um,
I mean,
can you read them for me? Because it's a little bit graphic.
I am looking at some of them. Um, I'm seeing Yemen, where there's a civil war. Ukraine, of course,
Uh-huh.
that's the Russia-Ukrainian war. Uganda, I'm surprised I didn't see Rwanda. I thought Rwanda would have had some aspects of civil war as well. Sudan, South Sudan, ethnic violence. We have Nigeria, terrorist insurgency. We have Myanmar, civil war. Morocco, Libya, terrorist insurgency. Israel, of course, in the Palestinian war. Of course, the closest to home, I think Rose would be Haiti, where there's
Yes,
civil war
because
and
that's
gang war.
close. Haiti is
Yes,
close.
Haiti is close. Ethiopia, of course, we are now connecting with Africa, so we could send some over there to
And she's just come from
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, so she has
Yes,
connections there.
yeah, the Dominican Republic of the Congo, DR Congo, Chad, where there is a terrorist insurgency. Burkina Faso, terrorist insurgency. She might learn something from Mr. Traore. uh, Algeria, terrorist insurgency. So there are quite a lot of wars out there to export our violent and gang related young men to.
Yes. And right now, quite next door to us, there's that conflict between Venezuela
Venezuela and the United
and
States.
Guyana. And she and the president, the prime minister, and the president, re-elected president of Guyana, they have a good relationship. We sent our black belly sheep over there, so our youth can probably go over when God forbid, and we don't want it to happen, when and if there is any um, combat, armed combat between Venezuela and Guyana, but we're hearing our Minister of Foreign Affairs, Carrie Simmons, um, cautioning, cautioning and advising not to rush these things and lead to that point. But are we going to treat our youth like black belly sheep and export them? Prime Minister, and those who, and then with the same breath, the Prime Minister is lauding the football match and the Prime Minister's football tournament or cup or whatever.
Yes, I
And
see that right here in
yeah,
front of
it's a
me.
good initiative if it's going to get the youth out there for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever, uh, competing against each other, meaningful, whatever the motive, um, one wouldn't knock it. But then with the same breath, this is your solution. Come on, ma'am, you can do better. And this is not I find it flippant. I find it
Can I give you two other words? Reckless
uh,
and irresponsible.
irresponsible. You
Reckless
keep
and
singing. I
irresponsible.
find that it lacks thought and
Lack seriousness.
Somewhere there is going to be a meme put up where somebody said we can, I will be shipped out. Just like the picture I put up with the young men being shipped out. You see it, you see the young
Yes.
people going off to war. This is not the solution. Ma'am, swallow your pride. I heard Wilfred, I think it was the Minister of Home Affairs, um, and his when they were talking about the interception of communication bill, one of his earliest response was to knock the report. And then the Prime Minister came and said, she asked for one of it, she was going to read it. Well, I would say read it, study it, and extrapolate from it the responses and the solutions and the interventions and the recommendations that have been made. After all, these are people in the system. Um, Berla de Pisa is a criminologist. She faces the court at the highest level. She knows, and there are other persons who would have engaged on it. But the response is not to send them. We, that is it. Who's the we? We will send them where wars exist.
Well, certainly you can't send them anywhere without the consent of the leadership in the country where you're sending them. So maybe she has the kind of relationship with the people in all of these countries that she can export the criminals out to their countries to fight the wars over there. It's just so ridiculous.
Is this
It's just so
like what they
ridiculous.
call it? What that place in Cuba, that prison where in Cuba, where I think it's America has shipped off
In Guantanamo.
yes.
Guantanamo, but some are being shipped off to Ecuador too. So why doesn't she send some to Ecuador and some to Cuba?
I probably, Pastor Further, you can detach yourself and respond to it more objectively than that. But my response is not a knee jerk. My
No, no.
response is saying, speak more responsibly.
But the reality, Rose, and you just have a couple of minutes, if I can just share a comment or two with you. The reality is that the war to which she's referring is not the type of wars that you have highlighted in your segment. We are dealing with drug related wars in the country, and shipping out a couple of people is not going to bring the solution. The solution to the wars in Barbados is to stop the importation of drugs and stop the importation of guns. That is the solution. And to stop criminals picking up the phone and calling politicians when the police arrive on the scene and are taking control of them. You can call a politician and have the police removed. Those are the things that have to stop in order to have the kind of Barbados that she is purporting she has an interest in seeing.
And these are the things that need to be done. Need to be done and can be done.
Absolutely.
And you don't need to have thousands of from the public purse to be put into a peace program where there are suspicion, where what's the word, where persons are intimating that the peace program funds are going back into the hands of the
Of the
same
very same,
deviant,
yes, yes,
deviant persons
yes.
who are involved in nefarious, who are involved in activities that can that are of criminal intent and can cause maim and harm and even
Within
death
the context, yes, within the context
to
of our
those
society.
involved. And here
Yes.
we are hearing that peace program. That peace program is being um it's not working.
Yes.
Swallow your pride. That side, swallow your pride, administration. Swallow your pride, ma'am, and go to this report and see. And I'm sure that the DLP, I'm sure that the authors of this report will be glad to know that it can lend to a change, a transformation, and bring back some kind of stability through
Within the
peace and
society.
orderliness in
Yes.
our country.
Well, Rose, I wish we had more time. I mean, so much that we can delve into because all is not being said concerning the refusal of the leader of the opposition to meeting this particular aspect that she's requesting. She knows there's more in the mortar than the pestle. That's the caption that is the show we have tonight. She knows that there's more in the mortar than the pestle. The leader of the opposition knows. I know what is in the mortar more than the pestle, and other people do, and she's not telling the full truth. But Rose, we have a handsome gentleman waiting in the wings to join us. And as you know, we always end up having the Rose. I am not going any further because I may get reprimanded when I bring him in. So I'm going to hold my tongue. And welcoming Glyne. Good night, Glyne. Glyne,
Good
it's so
night.
good to see you, man.
Good
How is
night. Good night.
everything going?
Good
First of all,
night.
let me pay a deference to Rose. Good night, Rose. Then I will get to you.
I
Good
Thank
know.
night,
you.
Ferdy.
I see. I
Good night,
see.
Glenn.
But it is
Dapalit.
good.
Take
It
that.
is good. It is good for the youth to see
And
order
for
and
me,
protocol, right?
there's nothing in this mortar but the pestle.
Good night, everybody. Good to
Good
be here.
night. Good night. Good to have you.
Wow, what
Pleasure
a
to have you,
start. You all
man.
have put me to tremendous disadvantage. But I will try my best. Give me before you get into my real topic. It is so much
Uh-huh.
y'all put out there. If I weren't focused, I could spend the rest of the night talking about it. Uh, my real topic is hold on a sec, please. Got so much notes.
Yeah, me too. I've been
Oh,
making so many notes to it. They're
oh.
funny.
My real topic tonight is we are now the Republic of Barbados. We are now the Republic of Barbados. Begbados. And
DOS. Let me write that.
I'll explain that later. But before you do, give me a couple of minutes to
Yes, sure.
respond to.
Go ahead.
When I listened to when I read the Prime Minister's report in the press, and when I listened to some of you, I was tempted to almost feel disappointed.
Mhm, mhm.
But then I realized that the Prime Minister can't disappoint me because in the 9 years or so we spent around a cabinet table as colleagues, as equals, she was never outstanding. There was never a wow moment. I never brought any particular insights, any perspective that nobody else thought was saying, wow, where did that come from, Minister Morley? So therefore, it is more of the same. To the point where I resented, once again, where the Prime Minister is coming to chastise people
Yes.
as though we're
Yes.
some big mama
Yes.
of Barbados
With
can
that,
treat you
with
all like
that
a bunch.
finger. With that finger.
One would have thought that from one who had been abroad and the all kind of issues that would have grown. I'm sure she was in constant touch with Barbados, so she knew what was happening, what the dissatisfaction of the public are or were. She would come to somewhere to explain, give context, show leadership, but then to jump on the horse that you're going to ride us into the ground as though you know better than anybody and better. I think it's not good enough. And to be generous, I like to think that it was an example of jet lag. To be generous, I would put that down to jet lag, and she has not had time to fully adjust
But
herself.
but
Okay.
Glenn, she did admit And I was just looking for it here. She did admit to not being well.
Yeah.
So she may not have recovered because she
No,
talked about how Tuesday she was in London, Wednesday, and then Paris on Thursday, and then I think on Friday she had a
no,
chest infection.
I
that was
beg your pardon then, Dr. Ferdy. That may be the reason for the solution she's given to
no,
those involved in crime.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
take back my comments tonight
no.
on that
Okay,
matter.
okay.
That reference for the
Yeah.
was a previous trip when they went on a road trip to raise investments. That is some weeks ago. So that has nothing to do with this current trip where she went to Algiers and
But
Ethiopia.
the date I'm seeing came in from her speech last night on the 15th of September,
Okay, all right. Maybe
where
there's another one.
she speaks to it.
All right. No, not a problem.
Yeah,
But the point is,
but go ahead, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
point is
But
there has to be a reason.
she's out of country so often, unannounced. You don't know when and where and why she goes. That we cannot really keep track of her in any two ways, right? And where the Prime Minister admitted that we have to find a way dealing with crime. That is the admission that her government does not have a clue
Does
about
not have a
it.
correct.
It has nothing to
Correct.
offer.
Correct.
Nothing to offer. You would have thought she would have met with her and come and said, okay, this is what we have done so far. What do you think? No. And not only did she not was able to reflect some plan, but she also has kept silent. I'm going to repeat in my ear, but she would have kept silent. We are yet to hear from Minister Kurt Humphrey, who's the Minister of Crime Prevention. She does not even mention his name. He does not come and talk. So they're failing on everything. If we just have one, I said this before you go on. Prime Minister, that clip you played of the late Prime Minister Point Arthur talking about her despot. That was, from my knowledge, and it was very close to the situation then. Even though I left the Barbados prior before he did. That was forced upon. I mean, it pained him to have to do that despite everything.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
yeah, the truth is that she was not his automatic favorite to be a successor. He had his eyes on two gentlemen with genuine working class background, understanding and feeling, but they did not have the passion and the drive and the ambition for it. So he had to end up back and select her. That is how we became that prime. That is the background. That's the real thing. So she was no star backup performer that automatic. So let us not delude ourselves that she was.
Correct.
But let me get to my real topic. We are now the Republic of Barbados. And why do we describe it, our country on flattening terms? Because the government has been seeking lead the way and seeking to discard. Remember our national motto? Pride and industry.
And industry, yes.
You don't remember? No,
yes.
Now that we have become the Republic of Barbados, I think that has been replaced by pride in charity. Pride in charity. And because charity, I say charity, because government has adopted as a matter of policy that we go into, we have a regime of philanthropy. Philanthropy is just a big, sweet fashion name for a charity. Philanthropy is the most sophisticated house, but both philanthropy and charity do the same. They're supposed to be helping people to make life better for people. So when they call me a philanthropist or a charitable giver, it is the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They say that if you read up the literature on philanthropy and charity, one thing that they say that charity is a more short-term, immediate effort to help body or situation, cash or kind. Well, philanthropy is much more lofty, long-term exercise, operating at a different level, but to do the same thing. same thing as the same result help persons. But if you look at page, and this is government policy goes back to page 8 of the BLP's 1922 manifesto, in which it pledged the new Barbados Labour Party government will create a national policy on philanthropy, volunteerism, and active citizenship. That is on page 8 of the BLP's 2022 manifesto. Then on page 26 of the same document, you said the BLP made it clear that the BLP would increase engagement with the critical third sector, knowing that volunteerism and philanthropy add value to life and society and are a social investment in their own right. Once elected in 2022, the BLP government, the new BLP government, went on to consolidate and formalize and institutionalize philanthropy by adding the term of third sector to the portfolio of Minister Colin Jordan, who was Labor and Social Security, and who is now Labor, Social Security, and the third sector, right? So it shows that they are subcontracting the responsibility of the government to look after its needy system to others, to individuals. And I have a resentment, I have very uncomfortable with that for a number of reasons. For long, because of even before we got the right to vote in 1951. Even, let me tell you, as a matter of fact, we are back in 1880, in the dark days of colonialism. A few years after the abolition of slavery, the law was passed to set up the Poor Law Relief Act was passed in 1880 to set up poor law boards in each parish for each parochial council to administer money raised out of the taxpayers of that parish for the poor. So we've had, even way back then, there was an admission, but even the government of that day, that was an inherent obligation of the government to look after the vulnerable in cash and kind in the society. As a matter of fact, even back then, they not only sought to give relief in cash and kind to ease the situation of the poor, they even, and also they would not engender a long-term syndrome of dependency. They offered apprenticeships and training in skills and water. This is 1880. And then when the popular governments in Barbados came into being, through the democratic socialists, which are the heart of it is that the government has an obligation to look after the basic needs of the most vulnerable in society. All right? Health, education, welfare, housing, transport, all along with security. Those are the crucial things of the society. The BLP did it, and the Grand Islands and future other governments. The DLP also did it in its terminal. So that's an established, announced policy. But of course, you don't hear this government talking about democratic socialism or social democracy. In fact, there's no discernible, detectable philosophical basis on which this government operates. The ad hocism and part of the problem is that when you put yourself deep in the hands of the IMF and the North American investors who do not let you get close to the term socialism, you can't speak that language because that was alienate them and run you for your possible sources of loans and funding and what. So that is, there's no mention of that, but the responsibility remains the same. What makes me become so aghast is that this Barbados phenomenon was cemented in my mind when I read in the paper that the cumulative hospital was in collaboration with Sol Gasoline, coming to the public to raise $100,000 to buy some badly needed equipment. $100,000 in the scheme of what the Barbados economy, what, 10 billion or something like that, 8, 9, 10 billion. Chicken feed. Not only that, here was the QEH going to the public to raise $100,000 to buy badly needed equipment through the public buying gas and contributing to that fund, even though we already pay money to a levy to contribute to QEH, right? Even that. And And I think that so that tells you how what the depth of it is something. 100,000 at a time when countless millions I have to say, were spent on Carifesta. It has to be countless millions because when it was announced that when they were getting ready for the trying to give some samples of readiness at the baking ground, the so-called mechanical gardens for Calypso finals, they had a cover 41,000 square feet of area with pavers. And my check-in in construction center said that cost at least $700,000. So you can find money to pay for $700,000, but you can't find money to pay $100,000. And the prime minister was expressing horror at the idea that she denied that she know the cabinet knew that the QES needed $100,000. Huh?
But GLYNE, I know from reliable sources, as I've spoken with people involved in the QEH in the area of finance, that there were pieces of equipment that they were trying to get philanthropic donations raised even overseas to get the equipment. So if the levy is supposed to have provided for the financial aspects of the QEH, why is the QEH having then to look to raise money?
But I grew up in the colonial. I came out of the colonial. You so they do for we entered independent.
Yeah.
No, we entered public. And we saw we had a sense of dignity. We never saw charity and begging as part of our lifestyle. And what it was done, anything that was done quietly, discreetly.
Yes.
Even in the neighborhood grew up in Spooner.
People didn't want the left hand to know what the right hand was doing.
No. If you had a neighbor that you had the feeling or you got indication that they not have a meal, a meal will be provided. Nobody will go to the front door or the side door. Somebody will go through the back to the side door or the pallet.
To maintain the dignity.
The dignity. That is the kind of society I grew up in. So when I see this parading of charity and so-called philanthropy all over the front pages, it really it's abhorrent. Even for back to school, not only for back to school, but at Christmas time when you have hampers with the politicians giving up, the children's faces are shown. If you can do that, give it to the adults, give it to the head teacher, but not the children's faces. In the same way, you will not show the face of a child who was the victim of some sexual assault or something. That was discretion, that was the standard the society operated. Now we live in a society where everybody who's donating 50 cents want their front picture on the front page, shake hands, skin in their teeth, and showing off things that had to be photo op for everybody. Even in the big, especially the biggest charity, the Maria Holder Foundation, the Stanley Lane Trust, fine. Does all well and good. They make their contribution. But I know in this life, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always a quid pro quo. And
you better believe it.
There's something do for do. You do me, I do you. There must be a benefit, apart from the psychological benefit that are supposed to come from helping others through charity or philanthropy. It's supposed to give you, I've contributed to society and giving back. I'm trying to help somebody improve their life themselves. These charitable institutions get tax benefits and write-offs, personally or collectively as an institution. So there is a financial benefit for them. Apart from that, it also helps them to raise their profile as good corporate citizens. But I think it's unbecoming of Barbados for a country that, and let me tell you, I grew up also in the 50s. Remember the days of Madame Eiffel, who was a social worker? I
was a little fella then. I was not being thought about.
You can leave home there.
I hadn't even landed yet.
Maybe Rose has heard about it. She was Henry.
Madam Eiffel was married to my grandmother's uncle.
There you are. She was a well-known social worker. discreet.
Remember, I'm an Eiffel.
Okay.
Rosaline Eiffel Corbin.
All right. But in my neighborhood in Spooner's Hill, that was my frame of reference in my life. There was a man called Mr. Clifford Goodin Edgell, who headed the Dorcas League, and rose as good. And you too, for the other student of the Bible, know that Dorcas was a big philanthropist, was do-gooder, a charity work in Jesus' following.
Yes.
So he created the Dorcas League, and he did a lot of good social work across Barbados. I remember too because he had a very impressive looking uniform, and that caught my eye. Apart from that, and therefore, to give it further context, he's the grandfather of the now present Minister of Tourism and National Transport, Ian Goodin, who come from the Long Gaps. So so some people think that is what he would have got his idea of serving people for having been acquainted with his grandfather's legacy or whatever. So we are accustomed in Barbados to people doing good work discreetly, effectively, and benefiting. So I do not see how then the need for us to have this big palaver. Not only that, but there's another side to this. At the grassroots level, like me, there are people who could relate to it. But if there's a slide I set to app for a slide from a publication called Business Barbados on page 128. Ferdy, if you could read that first paragraph on
Well,
the value
I can tell you, I got some good eyes, boy, but I don't know my eyes are good.
okay, the value of the third sector. Okay, the Barbadian.
Let me see if I can read it.
I can do it. I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, this at least the first paragraph. The Barbados
Okay, just bring it
government.
down.
And this is in a very prestigious institution, a publication called Business Barbados. It's on page 120. The Barbados government will not be able to afford all social services to its residents in the not too distant future.
Yes.
Dwindling economic reserves, the pressure of an aging population, and rising health concerns such as diabetes and other chronic illnesses indicate that the situation will likely could go up a bit more, intensify in the near future, right? And this is an interview, and this is quite interesting. There's an article written by a lady by the name of Sherry Hord, H-O-R-D, and Peter Booz, a well-known name, especially, and I'm sure Mr. Lewis will be very familiar with that name in the Bathsheba East Coast area. They are writing it. They're writing on behalf of the Peter and Jan Booz Foundation. So there's an established philanthropy. All right. So what is happening now, what we are doing now is that we are past government. I mean, he comes up with great authority, and this is in a very high-end article publication pitched at the international business sector, So this is the audience that you're seeking to induce and comfort to further intensify and contribute towards philanthropy in Barbados, and I think it's something we have to watch, because it is well known that with money, the kind of mind that operates in that circle at that level about the philanthropy, they are known all over the world to use that to insinuate themselves into positions of power, authority, and influence. And I do not think that as a self-respecting Barbados, I will be prepared to pass on the future of Barbados, the future social development of Barbados, in a way that successive governments have done as part of a national inbred, instinctive, natural affinity to your society wants and needs, that Bajans doing it for themselves. And here, as is a republic, asking other people, no matter how well-intentioned they are, there's nobody who born outside of Barbados. And some even who can love Barbados and have a greater attachment to Barbados than me and us who born here and raised here and identify with it. Nobody. I don't care how philanthropic you are. And I therefore am very weary of this drive towards subcontracting, like I said, our responsibility for our development of our the further social development of our country. And I'm surprised that the Prime Minister would subscribe to that in thing. Because while the Prime Minister was away, there was a speech she made in Ethiopia about the initiation of the Grand Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. The Grand Renaissance Dam. It's one of the modern wonders of the world. A massive cost US $5 billion or something. And the significant thing is, here is the Prime Minister leaving our country with a long, proud tradition of self-help. Because remember this, we were never a grant and aid colony of Britain. In other words, Britain never sent any money down to Barbados to pay civil servants or run the country. We always, since 1627, paid our own way out of our own resources. So paid the school, the hospital, out of our own. So there's a new, so what we do, and up to 2018, we never absconded on the debt. We always paid our bills. So now, here's the Prime Minister praising the people of Ethiopia for digging and going from among themselves, raising the $5 billion to pay for the dam, because the Western world and the capitalists did not see it as a valuable property for their loans at exorbitant price. So here she was praising them, but at the same time, we are now supposed to subject ourselves to other people and not perpetuating, building, reviving. The Prime Minister could come up with ideas which can make it even more. For Barbadians, the ordinary Barbadians have to contribute towards these causes. You don't have to be a big, high financier to be able to be a philanthropist. It should be made through tax incentives and other things that Barbados itself can get accustomed to volunteerism and giving back. Make it meaningful and don't feel it's so one set of people and that you are here have to wait for the crumbs that fall from the master's table to be able to contribute to your society. And I think I'm very uncomfortable with anybody who want to when they get place of Business Barbados 2025 comes as an annual publication aimed at the business sector, international business sector. I read that story and find the details of praising the virtues of philanthropy to the private sector, who then will come and give realization to the fact that the government in the distant future will not be able to do its bounden duty to provide social service for Barbadians, but that we will have to wait on the goodwill, the beneficence, right, of other people to take it from them to pay our. I think it's not good enough. I think it's a backward step. I think it's creating a mentality that we're supposed to move away from the dependency, even in political institutions, for the British colony, for the British but colonial masters might become a republic. And here we create another form of dependency. This is another form of dependency being institutionalized in law and government policy. And if you create that mentality among Barbadians, we will be sowing the seeds for perpetual dependency, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-respect, self-worth, and self-involvement in creating our own future for our future generations. And it is something I think that we should not. That's why we should be very careful of not bequeathing to future generations. But the question is, what are these philanthropists, apart from this field, what are they getting out of this policy? This contribution. Just do some good, but as a policy, as a way of life, I think we must know more about what is being done in that regard.
Yes, and we must know more about the philanthropists as well, because some years ago GLYNE, I spoke with a gentleman that was involved with the Caribbean Development Bank as one of the directors of finance. And we got into discussion, and I mentioned the aspect of philanthropic donors because, of course, I had been appointed the international governor of the AUGP USA to Barbados in 2018. And I got into a conversation with him because through the organization, we were able, and I did this on 2 occasions, we were able to access philanthropic grants. It did have, GLYNE, I will tell you, as I'm sure you are well aware, conditions, because people, when they hear a grant, think that it doesn't come with conditions, but it does. And one of those conditions had to do with the fact that the funding had to be managed by a non-governmental organization, and the funds had to be directed directly to the on the ground aspect that the funds are required for. Of course, it was declined here on 2 occasions that I was involved in. It was not accepted. But he did say to me that he felt that the future, in order to break the strong stranglehold of the World Bank and IMF, were philanthropic donors. And I do know of, I did then know of several who would have assisted without any strings attached, because of course they were moving their funding, they were trying to escape corruption in their countries. They were doing things to do with which is legal, tax avoidance, by donating. I remember one particular institution being directed by the Security Exchange Control of the United States to provide funding for a third world country in order to move funding from Europe into the United States. They had to do it, and they had to show the SEC that it was done and how it was done. So there's an aspect to it that is good and very transparent, but I believe that this is the challenge we are facing here. We don't have the transparency and accountability that we are asking for.
But okay, well said. And yeah, I'm familiar with some of those activities and conditions and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what I'm afraid is that we have in the past made our way to go in this direction, in this way. We have difficulties, but we've always in the past find a way of coping with our difficulties, some more successful than others. But now we are now, like say, subcontracting, pushing over, transferring that responsible social welfare from governments to the private sector. And it means that rather than producing, inventing, creating, working hard to help finance our own development, we would have to sit back and wait for people to hand it to us. What will be the conditions? What will be the long-term effects on the psyche, on the self-respect, a sense of being a Barbadian, as defined in those terms? And that, like I said, that's what I'm afraid of. And I must remember that the old Beaton says, taking your time is not laziness. Taking your time is not laziness. And to give up on that just for a quick short-term solution, because the government obviously seems to have given up on that. In the same way, they putting all their hopes on this National Advisory Council to find a solution to crime. What are they doing? They're passing off the responsibility to the philanthropic sector.
But GLYNE, I don't mean to cut into to Victor any more Victor's time, but GLYNE, this is an administration that said it had the answers in 2018 when it criticized the then administration and the then Attorney General of not having the answers. And they said they had the answers. They could have dealt with it. So put me in office and we will deal with it. 7 years down the road, they're now trying to find solutions.
Okay.
And then the Prime Minister is going to tell us that because we're speaking up, as you mentioned at the beginning of what you were sharing, there's this disingenuous insult and slap in your face because you are speaking up. And she's the person that said a culture of silence is dangerous. That's what she said.
She probably be thinking, the Prime Minister might be thinking that attitude might work well for her party members, for her cabinet.
But not for the people.
Barbie. No, not for the average Barbadian.
No, not for the average Barbadian.
You can't sell for that. Not less than that.
And when you talk about these billions of dollars, and I mean, I'm not an economist, but it would appear that no economist is paying any attention to the not to the content of her speech. I almost said something else, but I won't. Um, you know, it's ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous because you can talk all these millions and billions of dollars, but at the end of the day, what's affecting the man when he walks into Popular to buy his food? And parents when they're trying to get a school uniform and school books and school bags, that is a fundamental issue.
And if you notice, both Minister Kirk Humphrey in his more in his softer, easier managed portfolio with social care, etc., child welfare,
Hmm.
I'm saying that there has been a tremendous upsurge in demand
Yes.
among the public. Mr. Eddie Abed said it.
Yes.
The head of the Salvation Army.
Yes.
Everybody is saying, which means that at the ground level, there is
That's
greater
not
need.
correct.
The
Yes.
growth, the so-called paper growth you hear with central bank or talk, that's growth on paper to satisfy the calculations of the IMF, but it's not development. People are
No.
no better off. People are not feeling in their pockets it comes most. So therefore, we're just living a lie if we fall
Yes.
for that
Yes.
propaganda.
The people are not feeling it. Those millions and billions of dollars you're talking about, loans that you're talking about, the people are not experiencing it on the ground. They are not experiencing any benefit from it whatsoever.
My last comment before we come, and above all, we are still at junk bond status in the eyes of the world, which means that any loans have to come at higher than normal rates
But
of
you know,
interest because
but
we are not yet investment grade.
but you know, she's indicated that we are getting a better loan than even better interest rate than even the Bahamas, and you know those are her words. But listen, let me bring Victor in because I got some things to talk with Victor about. I know he has a lot to talk about potholes and so on. Victor, good to see you.
Yes, man.
Welcome to
Good
the show,
Good
evening.
my
evening,
friend.
Victor.
Good evening, Rose. Good evening,
Rose
Mr.
is in
Murray.
here. GLYNE
Good
is in
night.
here with me. Of course, there are no three men on the show and just one lady. Let me correct myself before I lose my head. Three gentlemen
Oh,
on
thank
the
you.
Oh,
show
yes.
and one lady.
And the Rose of Sharon.
Yes. But you know, but Victor, I know this is something I must tell you that yesterday afternoon I went through a bit of a challenge, and I thought, look, let me get out on the road and go for a drive. And I took my wife, and we went for a drive, Victor, from out by St. John's Parish Church down through Martins Bay into the heart of St. Joseph.
No,
And
you ain't get into the heart of St. Joseph.
I
So
no,
you can.
I got down into the heart of St. Joseph because I was appalled
Mhm.
at the conditions of the roads. As a matter of fact, when I took that road going up from Haggett's factory in the hope of getting up, I think it's somewhere up there you go to Mount Hillaby, I
Yeah.
couldn't get through.
White Hill.
White Hill, and the other
Mhm.
is a sandy hill too, or something like that. I
Mm.
can't remember. I will look up on Google Maps while you're talking and get you the name of the roads because I was following Google Maps to do it. But let you go with what you want to share. But I experienced what you're going to share about tonight, and I also experienced the brand new highway on the
Mm.
East Coast Road after
Brand
I
new.
had passed through the horror of what was happening. But I will
Mhm.
let you
After
go
you
ahead.
pass through the horror.
The horror. Oh my God.
A
Go
good
ahead,
night
my
to the
friend.
Royal Opposition. I told Marcia that I wouldn't be able to make it this season, but
But I'm glad
when
you
I,
did.
when I observed some things over the course of the evening, I was trying to call her to let her know, man, I need to come on to the show. But now I came here and I heard Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, I have to take up something with you as soon as I make my comments relative to this matter because, you're up my stream 200%.
I was hoping to.
Yes, man. Oh, boy, I love it. I mean, it's nice to smile, but the whole week, man, the whole week, St. Joseph, down this area, Bathsheba Hills, right? Cattle Wash, Cleversville, the whole works. We don't have no water at all. And this has been going on now for weeks. When I say no water, Dr. Ferdinand, that's what I mean. No water. The water authority truck, that will come around. It will come around, to give you water here and there. But everyone now is armed with a bucket, now in our area, a bucket to catch water. I mean, it is sad. Over the course of last week, we had 4 occasions in 1 week where the construction work in Calawash burst the mains. We paid so much money to put down new mains along that stretch of Calawash because with the major problem they had with the water, they couldn't find the mains, so then they ended up installing new mains higher up. And now that whole stretch of practically a mile of pipes, the construction work in Calawash area,
Yes.
they haven't reached 100 yards as yet. Not 100 yards as yet in the Calawash area.
Yep.
And every single day they're bursting the mains. As I said, they had 4 last week. I told Marcia I can't make the show tonight. But as I was going down Calawash this evening, you know what they put up again on Dr. Ferdinand? Tell me what I saw when I get on the Calawash. Come, man, come get the front of the class, man.
I'm looking at the map to see if I passed through there yesterday. Because I ran into some big machinery, bad roads, Chinese workers working, potholes galore. I can't let my daughter know. I cannot let my daughter know that I carried her vehicle where I did.
Man, don't go down through that road. I mean,
know.
It is hurtful, Dr.
You
Ferdinand.
didn't tell me.
I didn't tell you.
You didn't tell me.
I've been on the show all the time telling you these things and what's going on in Calawash. Where were you, Dr. Ferdinand? You're sleeping.
But I thought by now things might have been rectified, so I took the chance.
But let me give you some little consolation, because along the stretch lower down, the way would have been diversions, maybe 4 or 5 diversions. Now the Chinese they have opened back up the road, so you don't have to go off. You don't have to just divert and come back on. There's only practically 1 or 2 diversions now in that stretch. Sure, that is that is some degree of consolation. But let me get back to the Calawash area. I said 4 times last week. 4 times the mains burst in less than 100 yards. I don't know. Look, I'm in the construction field. I do technician work and houses, all kind of things I do. If I go and check for electrical cable, I have a piece of equipment. I can find cables in the wall. Before I cut that wall, I can tell you where cables are. If there's studs in a wooden house, I have a stud finder. I can find exactly where the studs are in the house without in any way pulling a nail or moving anything. I can tell you where the studs are. So I can find electrical cables. I can find studs. My hobby is fishing. I go in a boat. We have fish finders with the sonar signal sending down to the water. I can tell you where fish are. For many of years, we have watched CBC, who would have shown us on many occasions at the end of the news where Water Authority comes and gives us this whole long, wonderful speech, of how important their roles are, and in respect of all of that, Water Authority must be working in conjunction with the individuals in Calawash, and in less than 100 yards, every single day, you have a main burst. I want to say to you, Dr. Ferdinand, that this evening, they're going through Calawash. Again, those big machineries that you saw.
Yes.
Another main. No, I ain't talking about last week, I talking about this week, today, Monday. Passing through Calawash again, in less than 100 yards, there's another burst main. This time, this one was bad. Man, I tell you, bad, bad. When I looked in front of me, and I was driving a Hilux Surf. I mean, I up in the air. And I'm just wondering how the folks traveling on this road, how they will attempt to go through this water. I wanted to stop and take a video of it, but the amount of vehicles behind me, the amount of vehicles on the other side seeking to come from Belle Plaine side to come.
Right.
I mean, so many vehicles. So I couldn't afford to do it. I was going to go way down far and walk back. But I said, no, let me go on because my schedule heavy. But it is on returning this evening. When I saw this, I had to stop. Play the video there. Play the video there. Play the video. This is it. This is at the beginning of Calawash. When I got there,
Yes.
hold the video for now.
But it
Hold the
wasn't like
video.
that. It wasn't like that yesterday. Yesterday evening,
But
Victor.
listen, about you see where you can't see. You see where that street light is?
Yes.
Pass that street light and go around the bend, right? There's a hole in the road. You see the width. This is the width of the road here, and in actual fact, you can see no road at all. You just see a pond and the water bubbling and coming up from the burst main, and the burst main was on the right. All the water just covered that road. So vehicles coming out in either direction had to make a determination how they're going to get past. Are they going to go down? So I'm not talking about this hole, you know. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about one that is down by the street light. And all the water that you're seeing here, which is about 60 or 80 yards, maybe around 60, 70 yards from this water here, is where you have a burst main. And the water from that burst main push the water from the burst main all up here, filling up this point. You know, from the burst main that I saw sometime after 4. This is sometime now after 6. After 6, maybe going to 7. And I'm coming up. You see the vehicle there parked on the right? The one with no lights? Just play the video and you'll see the light flickering.
But
Play the
this
video again.
is at the beginning. This is at the beginning of Calawash when you come down the hill.
At the beginning of Calawash,
Yes,
right in the
because I
corner.
recognize the house on the right hand side
on,
there.
on the right hand side.
Yes,
Yes,
I know that house.
play the video there. Do you see the light that's flashing? Hold it there now. You see that light that's flashing? That vehicle, that vehicle dropped in a hole on this stretch of road that he practically couldn't see the road, right? But he dropped in a hole on that road. His wheel broke off.
What?
I rolled to the same. You see the house there on the right that you said you're aware of.
Yes.
That he said my wheel gone down to by that house, and he's there now flat on the ground, flat on the ground. And when I say to you, Dr. Ferdinand, that vehicle there is a Toyota RAV4. The vehicle you see parked there with the lights flashing is a Toyota RAV4. The guy couldn't move. He was shut down. When I passed and I saw him, I said, let me stop to see what this guy is all about. He's there with his lights flashing. Let me see if I can help. Then he says to me, what happened? And he is there now flat on the ground. He says, you know, I called the wrecker, and the wrecker is charging me over $400 to pull my vehicle from here. So I try now to get to my insurance company to see if they can send
If
a
they
wrecker.
would send a wrecker.
If they would send a wrecker. This gentleman lives in St. Philip. He works in the area of Farley Hill. Now tell me, he can't be coming to St. John to come to Chimborazo to come down Wilson Hill because that's a no. That bridge done. Can't go to Coggins, that done. So his only option, just like you, Dr. Ferdinand, is to come on down, you know, entertain the bad roads coming down to Foster Hall, to come in there into St. Joseph, to have to go through here. He has no other option. And that gentleman took his vehicle through there and we break off, gone. I've been speaking about these things up, down, and across. And what is so unfortunate that the Barbados Water Authority in 2025 doesn't have the level of technology to say to these folks who are doing the excavation where the water mains are.
No, 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 Victor.
Man, yes,
But
Dr. Fernand, I tell you 4 last week, and I'm not talking about the weeks past, I'm not talking about going back because they were burst mains then. And I'm saying to you that the stretch of road that they have to excavate, they're not 25% yet in the area where the houses are. No, they ain't get 25% of the road yet.
Wow.
And this is what we are subjected to. So to this gentleman, he's down there now. He says, sir, I don't have no other option but to take this road. And you can imagine, he said, I've been working at this company now for over 40 years. So this gentleman, he's seen many moons by himself. He said, I've been at this company now for over 40 years, and I have no other option but to take this road. I live in St. Philip. I work down there by Farley Hill, and this is the road I have to take. That's the road he took with a RAV4, a Toyota RAV4, broken off and gone.
Right there. Yeah.
Victor,
Yes.
is a local company doing the excavation? I'd heard that BW had equipment that could detect leaks, could detect mains that they were utilizing when they were laying the new mains. So I'm surprised to hear.
But tell me.
But I can tell you,
Maury.
Glyne, that I was down there yesterday, and there are no Bajans working down there on that road. Not a Barbadian. Everybody I saw at one point, I thought they were Hispanic, but when I got because the tone of their skin was very South American in tone, but when I got close, I realized that they were more Oriental in their look, and I am assuming they were Chinese, not a Bajan. Not a local human being was present on that entire work area. Victor can tell you if I'm telling you lie or truth.
Victor,
Yes, sir.
the money that might be financing this work, is it a loan or a grant?
But that's a beautiful question. That's the question I would love to ask you because you've been in the realm, so it's I practically I don't know what's going on, but I know that the people in St. Joseph suffering. I could tell you that much. Not only suffering for water, but that gentleman there.
That's heartbreaking.
Yes.
No, I asked that because there must be further costs involved in this. Must be delays. Who's paying for it?
But isn't this a part, Glyne, Victor, Rose, of the Scotland development aspect in collaboration with the Chinese?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the sad thing about all this, the sad thing about all of this is that this road is going to be completed maybe a few years from now. And you know what is going to be under that lovely paved road? Pipes with a whole lot of joints. That is what is going to be under that road when it is completed. And I can tell you that within less than a month, folks will be on that road digging it up to get access to a joint that was caused during this excavation. So after we have expended so much money to put down new mains along this stretch, we are now entertaining excavators in conjunction, I would like to think so, with the Barbados Water Authority that should know where the mains are. I know where cables are. I know where studs are. I know where fish are, all by technology. Are you telling me that the Water Authority sitting down in Barbados, 166 square miles, and allowing this to continue? Not only that we don't have water, But we are being subjected to an environment where a vehicle, a Toyota RAV4, that the wheel broken off. It ain't that the guy had a flat. No, the wheel break off and gone. That is hurtful. And then we will have to be subjected now to an environment where that road, with all those pipes underneath, with joints, God help us in the end, when this is perceivably completed, because there won't be no completion with all those joints.
It's going to be dug back up again, which is it seems to be the norm when it comes
Precisely.
to the country, because we just had the road up by Wildy by the Y, that whole area out there done, and immediately afterward they came and dug up, I think right across the road that they just finished doing. It just speaks to me of a lack of coordination and synergy and you know.
But for you might don't realize it, but the BWA now also falls under the Prime Minister, you know.
Yes, I'm aware of it.
With Dr. Shelton Morrow Knight being responsible for day-to-day management like he has been for culture. But I've never really heard her yet comment on anything yet to do with BWA or any projects. And she should be called account to give an account to the public as to what is happening along the stretch of road and the whole project. She should be made to come and meet the public. I mean, it's probably an impossible dream. But you're talking about accountability. That is a time for accountability, because this cannot be good enough. Far from good enough.
I can tell you, GLYNE, I can tell you, GLYNE, from the time you enter onto the Ermyborn Highway, when you come down the hill from St. Joseph, from St. Joseph, coming down the hill, that would be, let me look here. Cox Hill, well, I'm seeing it referred to as Ermyborn Highway.
Yeah, you come down Cox Hill, then you get on the, you come down Gags Hill, you get on to Cox Hill, and then you start the Ermyborn.
Right, Ermyborn. From there to Barclays Park is horrendous.
Wow.
That entire stretch. Now, give you a grant, they're doing, I think they're called culverts. Am I right, Victor? Where they're
correct.
The sea is coming, or the water is coming down from inland, going to the sea. So there are a couple of areas where that is being done, and some expansions and so forth. That entire stretch is horrible. From the Barclays Park to Aline School, I would say, is good. As a matter of fact, I would dare say that the stretch going from Barclays Park to just before the Aline playing field, Aline School playing field, I think just before there it looks to me like pretty brand new road.
Yeah.
Pretty brand new road, lovely. But it's like they're taking forever, because I went through there several months ago, and it was in a similar state.
Well, listen, I wish you all luck in dealing with it. If the Chinese are at the forefront of this project, I wish you luck in dealing with it, because the Chinese do not account to anybody but themselves. They're at their own pace. They don't deal with the public. They don't give explanation. But we have a minister, the Prime Minister. They are the one who should get information to the public. We should not let this slip by as just another problem.
Yeah, but the Prime Minister, on the basis, GLYNE, of her expressions with regards to the Carifesta, that I am looking at, this is the Nation newspaper dated September the 15th, 2025. No rush on Carifesta figures. I mean, you know that, GLYNE, you can correct me, GLYNE, if I am wrong, because I don't like to bring a charge to anyone if it's not so. But I remember in that same video that I had Dave play at the beginning of the show tonight, the Prime Minister, he was then the leader of the opposition, I believe, former Prime Minister Arthur, spoke about her reckless use of the party's financing, and seemingly to think that it was her personal purse, that she could do whatever she likes with it.
And that is what led to her overthrow.
Correct.
To take it down.
So when I read her comments about no rush to Carifesta figures, and she also made another comment where she talked about costs related to benefits. In other words, don't talk to me about how much it costs. Look at the benefits. But you
But
you have to
but
give an account. You have
but
to
for
give
the
an account, right?
I read where she said it would be irresponsible of her to give
Yes.
about. But all you have to do, okay, it might not yet have all the figures in, but you know what your costs have been. Tell us
Yes.
how much you spent so far, how much you committed. You don't have to so far, and then give us periodic updates as more and more figures coming. But to shut down anything, everything to say to you to be everything together. I am very watchful of that because I remember we are still, as far as I know, still waiting to get up another the same way that Carifesta 2025 is 15 is a pet project of hers. There was also a pet project called EduTech that we are yet to get a definitive position on the money spent to. So that has been the problem of her tenure in office.
But
I
listen,
know
but
that.
listen,
Yeah.
but listen to this comment. Listen to this comment. I'm reading it. Motley reminded the gathering that the cost of Carifesta in 1981 was 20 was I'm making sure I am missing no dot was $24 million, which adjusted for inflation was 97.6 million today. Now, mind you, earlier she said that it would be reckless and irresponsible of her. Okay, listen
Right.
carefully. It would be foolishness to suggest. And let me get her exact. I don't want to quote her wrong. She said it would be reckless and irresponsible because they're still gathering figures and processing and paying vendors. Yet she says that the inflation adjusted 97.6 million today. She said they did not spend that much. But how you know?
Oh, we're not
If how you
precisely.
going to know if
Exactly.
you have not
Exactly.
compiled the figures? And my question is, anybody going in to do any event or project has a budget. You have a budget as to what the expenditure is projected to be. And at the end of the day, given 2 weeks now having passed with technology available to us, you mean to tell me that you cannot even provide a vague figure?
A professional figure.
Yes.
A
That
personal
that is that is irresponsible in my mind. That's really irresponsibility is coming in my mind.
lack of accountability also.
Correct.
Right, right.
Correct.
But
So we don't know. We don't know. I mean, I saw you. I saw Dave. I saw you put it up just now. 60 million. If you could bring it back down, that we can see that. We can see that figure. $60 million. Who is accounting to? Because this is, well, to be honest with you, Glenn, I no longer know if it's the taxpayers' money or if it's money that borrowed. I don't know.
$60 million for what?
You're talking about
I,
this
for
Scotland
the
Oh,
district.
Scotland
Scotland
district,
district.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dave
Mm.
had it up there a moment ago. I'm
Yeah,
not going
yeah.
to ask him
But
if he
for you see,
60 million spent so far on Scotland district roads. Okay, no, listen. 60 million spent so far on Scotland district roads, and she's projecting 97.6 million on Carifesta 2025. Are you serious?
anyhow, he said they haven't spent that much yet.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
I
well,
remember, if I remember, one of the highlights of my experience in cabinet with the prime minister when she was a minister, that she always had to be called to be pulled back
something ain't
where
right. But
spending money is concerned. Take your time. Don't you'd spend 300 million when 30,000 would do. You always, so there's this take to spend other people's money.
yes, yes, like it's your own kitty.
Uh,
But
Prime,
very quickly,
Prime Minister Arthur had to keep her in as tight a rein as possible. He did not always succeed, but he tried hard. So therefore, now that she is Prime Minister, Minister of Finance,
oh, she had the body
haven't
to be
helped us.
accountable to
Haven't helped
know.
us.
She could do whatever she likes. But listen, gentlemen and lady, this and for the loyal
No,
opposition.
before you go, Mr. Lewis wanted to say something about
No,
philanthropy.
Yes.
no, he can.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna let him say
Okay.
it. But I
Uh-huh.
just want the
Mm.
I just want the viewers to know that this is the segment where you call in. All right, 236-7000. If you for your comments, your questions, anything you want to contribute to the show, this is your opportunity now. 236-7000, preferably over WhatsApp. If you don't mind, please give us a call and we will take your call here on the show. Go ahead, Victor.
I heard from a good friend of mine, and the degree of reliability is quite high, and that this whole philanthropic behavior that seems to be very prevalent in St. Joseph. And when I heard Mr. Murray spoke, Mr. Murray is very much on top of his research. Um, it is interesting to think that there's a belief that we are getting reparations by this medium. So we need to keep this, we need to keep this dimension mobilized, because this is how we are getting reparations.
Oh, I see.
But because, I mean, you can go down to Calawash and you can speak to Peter on this one. Because Peter would let you know. You see Joseph issue, right? Ask Peter about that. The bottom of Cleaver's Hill, where they destroyed the outlook we had there to the sea. Ask Peter about that. That's the philanthropist. When you think about Beachmont Park, where the Hillcrest Community Center was built, the philanthropists on high mobilization said to the people of this country, we will bring you generous gifts. So generous gifts came in the form of a bridge. It came in the form of help with Beachmont Park. And what did we have to give in return? Go down, Dr. Ferdinand, go down to Calawash and ask Peter. I will give you one that is far more severe, and one that, I may rest my case on for a few weeks or maybe a few months. But could you imagine that you send your child to school, not only primary school, secondary school, and community college and university, but they come out with a degree. They have skills in the area of what we call visual arts. And then a philanthropist that has been mobilized in this parish, not in this country, because, the foundation, as Mr. Murray rightfully talked about, has its wings on the entire Barbados. But let me talk about St. Joseph and ask Peter. Peter can tell you whether he approached these individuals to purchase their copyright. Could you imagine you send your child to school who would have sweat tears to develop their skills and coming up with the best of paintings? And when you do a painting, you produce what we call a copyright.
Intellectual property.
Yes.
Precisely. And this is where a philanthropist, as Mr. Murray rightfully said, steps in to purchase the copyrights for these individuals in St. Joseph. So he will now have control over all their paintings.
Wow.
And that is what is sad about it. When we can see an individual like that who came in to St. Joseph to help with the bridge, to help build Hillcrest, to help at the bottom of Cleaver's Hill. But it is more than that. We got to dig deep. So the philanthropist work, Mr. Murray, has been very wide and deep. And not only can you see it visually out there when you go around and you see what is going on, but it seeks to control Black people in this country from progress. That is what it is seeking to do. Because when you look at what happened with Hillcrest, who came in? A white man. When you look at what happened at the bottom of Cleversell, who came in? A white man. When you look at what happened to George River, who came in? A white man. What are we looking to do with whites
But
in this country? To allow philanthropists to be mobilized to control after we've been taken out of an environment of slavery relative to the lands in our country. We are now going into tourism. Who seeks to take over? Who built wall to wall to wall on the West Coast? And now they want to go wall to wall to wall
on the
on
East
the East
Coast,
Coast. And who will be the ownership? Not the black people of this country, but whites. Again, I cannot be racist. I will not be racist, but I have to be racially sensitive.
but the reality is the reality.
It's a fact.
Victor, yesterday I passed a construction. I'm going to tell you where it is. I'm just trying to find it on the map to give you the road. You come down, you come down the road on the coast by Bathsheba. This is by where the old Bonita bar used to be. I don't know if you remember Bonita's bar.
Yeah.
Coming along there, I think right now you have Dinah's Bar and Cafe. You come down along by Kenor Apartments. That road running by Round Rock, you know, coming across now, heading toward the old train line.
Mhm.
And before you begin to go up, is that hill? What is it? Hill what? That's
You're going up to
New Road,
Hillcrest.
St. Elizabeth New Road. When you take that turn and then you turn to go across, I pass a whole heap of black sheathing
Yes. Yes.
hiding a development behind it. Look at my phone.
Mhm.
Is that the development there? Can
That's
you
the
make it out?
development at the bottom of Cleversell.
Yes, sir.
Mm.
What is that, Victor? What is that we are looking at?
That's the location where all the tourists would visit in terms of taking photos morning, noon, and night. That's the location where everybody coming from, coming to Bathsheba would go on top of that hill to enjoy the view. You watch the surfing, the whole works. That is the location where it was very iconic in the area of St. Joseph, in Bathsheba. That is where
Everybody
that's where
used to go there,
all the
yeah, and
captains
gather
were
on
from
that
there.
section
You know,
of land there.
but a philanthropist came in the form of Peter, who had his liaisons, who
So
worked on
That's Peter's
behalf,
place there.
but understand the
Oh
language,
dear Lord.
right? Understand the language. There is what we call a network. And ask Peter who was on top. And in this network, a philanthropist came in with a generous gift. They always come with a generous gift. And that generous gift was produced up in Beachmont Park to give us what we call Hillcrest, where we gave away all that area right there. Not to a black investor, not to a Bajan, not to the Goodmans who want to build now or rebuild in Bathsheba, but after 75 years contribution, they want to know now from Bajans what we think about them building back their establishments there. No sign was put up. No sign was put up for this gentleman. I can't recall the name now, whatever the name is. No sign was put up from him. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about, you know, an investor coming in to do some construction work at the bottom of Cleversell, and they're going to excavate that whole mountain. They're going to remove all the trees, and they're going to put up all of these houses here. Tell us what you think about that. We didn't get that because of a philanthropist. Ask
But,
Peter.
Victor,
Yes,
I
sir.
understand the intensity of your feeling. I am not
Mm.
as close to the area personally that you have, but I feel your passion and your pain. First of all, I do not believe in coincidences. You probably heard me say that several times. Everything we talked about is all interconnected, or related.
Yes,
And
yes, yes,
secondly,
yes.
I do not have any personal um, feelings against these philanthropists, investors, or whoever who want to come and invest or get into Barbados. I understand it. Because Barbados is a lovely place, and most people will
Oh,
want to come
it,
here. Right, I
beautiful,
understand that. But
beautiful.
what you have to remember is that they can only do it if certain permissions are given.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what the Prime Minister wrote in that document, where she's listed a whole set of possible investment sites around Bridgetown and Barbados and other parts, where she said when you apply to the Planning and Development Department, of which she's head as minister, you apply with a presumption of development. Therefore, my interpretation with the presumption that you will be okay. So you can get almost anything you want. So when you're talking about these bizarre, these weird, these unacceptable, these strange decisions, where Barbados and Barbados heritage
Are overlooked.
are overlooked and disadvantaged and destroyed and whatever, where are the permissions coming from? On what grounds come and
Can
justify
only
to the
be coming
public
from one office.
why these decisions were made, on what basis?
I am concerned about the level of deception. I'm saying it is a slap in the face of all Bajans when you think that we are stupid. We are not. When the Prime Minister could have been involved in a perceived transaction of a gift to us, of a bridge, a gift, and that, in actual fact, with the deceptive move, as far as I'm concerned, for what we are now experiencing in the area of George River. The involvement, again, of this
Small.
individual in the area of Beachmont Park with the development of the Hillcrest Center, in my opinion, that is another deceptive move, because this is what they give, this is what the investors give us, this is what we're giving them. That language was subtle and deceptive, because you're seeking to convey to me that we have so much wonderful people seeking to invest in our country, where Michael Anders spends a great sum of money as what we call a generous gift to develop Beachmont Park. But what does he get in return? He gets in return what we should be preserving for future generations of the people of this country. But where has it gone to? That wonderful area that we have enjoyed for years is no longer now part of the Bajan disposition as a people. We can't go down now to the bottom of Cleaver Hill and sit down on top of that rock that we are accustomed doing and look out at the surfing. We can't do that anymore. And that is what they were seeking to do with Teacup and Saucer and the Joseph Gully. But that ain't gonna work. And we've got to understand as a people that we need to identify. I love how Mr. Murray put it. We have a lot of philanthropists who, yes, we can seek to entertain, but do they have our best interests at heart?
Beachmont.
When I heard Crystal Haynes, hope I got the name right.
Yes.
Yes, when she can come and as some person there who has an interest in the youth of this country, when she looked and saw what transpired
on the West Coast, wall to wall to wall to wall, because she stood up for the future generations of this country. Our Prime Minister cut her down because she spoke that individuals like this gentleman on the screen do not come to the east coast of this country and do the same thing that has been done on the West Coast. She, in my opinion, I mean, I credit her highly because she saw the future of Barbados, that the future of Barbados needs to remain in the hands of Bajans. And all Crystal was seeking to do. I have seen the West Coast, wall to wall to wall to wall.
That's true.
This will not happen on the East Coast. And we have created now an environment, and the Prime Minister of this country, Mia Amor Morley, is up front at the head of planning and development, and is producing a rubber stamp because of perceived generous gifts to philanthropists to do what has been done on the West Coast, now on the East Coast. And I would say to her, or to any other people who have that mental disposition, that that will not work. We need to preserve the development of the East, not for the booze. They are part of the equation, but they are not the subject of this development. It has to be about the people of Barbados that look like me also. And this is not what I'm seeing on the east coast of Barbados.
I think what
going to work.
I think what is even more troubling, Victor, is that they're not even if we were to temporarily ignore the color of the individual, they're not even Barbadians. That to me is as equally disgusting, because I will tell you that when I went down here, I'm just trying to look back, all down through Wrong Rock and so on. Yesterday we drove all the way down through Martins Bay. The roads that come all through I don't know all of the names of them. All through Martins Bay, come down Andromeda Gardens and all through there. We were remarking at the beauty, the absolute stunning beauty of St. Joseph and the St. John area coming into Bathsheba, into Cattle Wash, the views. I remember when we came up Cleaver's Hill and got and turned coming up there to go over the bridge, and I looked across at the hills. One of the most picturesque, my wife said immediately, she said, this reminds me so much of St. Lucia. She says this because that's where she was born. And she says it reminds me so much of St. Lucia. We drove down through a little wooded area with a whole ton of banana trees on one side of the road. You'll probably know where that is. I don't know the name of the road out there, but there was a whole field of bananas. Banana trees on the right hand side, and on the left hand side all woods. And I said, could you imagine developing this woodland like how they're doing up on the highway, where you could come and you could have a park area in here where people could sit down and have a picnic, and the view is gorgeous, absolutely stunning views, and to see that we're losing it. I think we might have a caller. Let me just be sure, not at the moment, but yes, we do want them to call in. We do want you guys to call in. It's 24 minutes after 9, 236-7000. We are waiting your calls. We are just chatting as we are waiting for your calls. Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, Victor, one of the most, I'm still trying not to use the term disappointing in connection with the Prime Minister. One of the most absolutely outrageous things that, to me, centers around the Prime Minister is her absolute refusal to really give account to Barbadians for
Yes.
some of these major that's not found 5 minutes. She travels all over the world, talk about reparations and climate change and resilience and protecting the environment, but she has not yet. I mean, whole tongue St. James, the developers all bridged down. Even the $220 million of land she gave to the African Bank, she has not yet found it within herself to come and humble herself and spend time to seek to justify any of these. There might be some very good, logical, rational reasons for natural why these decisions were taken. But come and tell us so we can follow the narrative and force the logic and come to a conclusion. But have this authoritarian decision making coming out of that department with no accountability, it really, really is bad for Barbados. It's bad for our democracy. It's bad for our attitude towards the citizens and themselves. It really is at the root of a lot of dissatisfaction in Barbados. And when the Prime Minister comes back and feel fretful about certain things, she rants and she tries to chastise and berate people, makes it. I'm saying that the Prime Minister owes it to this country and her colleagues, her MPs who are impacted directly by these problems in the various constituencies have to find a way to let her come, her department, her technicians, her expert, and explain to the public why certain things have been done. So, because there are other things that have to happen and are happening, and people will wonder also, what is the decision-making process, and see if it can make sense and give any sense of satisfaction to the public of Barbados.
But
Yeah,
she's quick, GLYNE, to say, and I'm quoting again from the speech, which I assume has been accurately carried by whoever the writer of the article is. At some point in the next few months, in terms of persons who are critical and so on, she can find the time to call them all out. I have kept very quiet, but this country is at risk of flirting with danger because others who are envious of success are trying to pull it down day after day, week after week, and there will be a price to it. So she's not
Wow.
ready to give us an account of her stewardship, but she's ready to deal with the people. She's ready to deal with these people who dare to question her. And she sees, and I said at the beginning of the show, we are not pulling down, and I want to make it clear, nobody on this show pulls down Barbados. Barbados is the most fantastic island on the planet, but it is being managed by some people who don't care about the people. That is the problem.
I saw a comment there, that you placed on the screen relative to facilitators, you know, and it just bothers me, this whole idea of, a price tag, right? Because the CM Peter Booth here, I was informed that he is looking for me. He wants to get in contact with Mr. Lewis. But let me say to Peter Booth that there is no price tag on my head. It's priceless. And the only accountability I have is to God, not to him. So I saw the comment there where there are facilitators who are paid. So we have some Bajans who will sit down and allow this kind of behavior to go on with the view of, I am getting a generous kickback. And it is happening in this country of ours, where the philanthropist with his long dollar bill can purchase or produce the necessary funds or place a price tag on the head of individuals in St. Joseph. It is currently happening.
But
Ask Peter, he will tell you.
Victor, you have brought a subject which has been at the back of my mind, and I'm glad you did it. It gives me a chance. What has happened over the years, and now it's happening at great rapidity over the last 8-10 years. There are people who come from abroad, settle in Barbados, set up businesses in Barbados, do well in Barbados, become sort of also part of the Barbadian society in certain ways. But they then end up buying more and more of Barbados from Barbadians. And it's coming from Jamaica, Trinidad, from the rest of the Caribbean. And that money is consolidating itself into a clique. Like I just saw the other way one company has bought 50% of Armstrong Industries. A lot of the businesses are being swallowed up by persons with bigger, deeper, like how Massey has taken out Goddard's and all those.
And
Right. But let me tell you what is the problem. There's an historical, a sociological problem behind that. Many years ago, I forget what year it was, the French angered the British forever. The British have not forgiven them yet. When the French described the British as nothing but a nation of shopkeepers, right? It's an insult that has gone down through the ages. I often attribute that to the Barbadian businesses. All the big businesses have the Goddards, not so much the Goddard, because they have diversified and survived. They have the Costa Mannings and all the big names that we born and start calling forever. They refused, and some had to do even with the Beverly Bridge. I remember from Prime Minister Adams and also including Mr. Arthur, were trying to convince them to some of those. They have the most gorgeous sites as warehouses on the beach, and we're trying to get them to give that put equity into projects, create marinas. What is happening now for private investors from abroad was being attempted 30 years ago. So I'm saying, and more people are consolidating themselves and squeezing the Barbadian out. And it's getting progressively worse. And as time passes, it becomes more and more difficult to retrieve the situation because the costs are astronomical. One last thing, I've come to the conclusion, that I think in our new constitution, I think we have to have a provision where no non-Barbadian can buy land, can rent it, can lease it, but it should not be the land is final. It is not getting any better. And I think we have to start to take. I used to object to that concept 20, 30 years ago, even within the Caribbean. I think Trinidad used to have it in some other places. But no, I'm saying that Barbados, if we are to preserve the uniqueness of the Barbadian culture and personality and thinking of real life, because we are very easy to absorb other people's way of life, their habits, their behaviors. And when you do that, you diminish what is also your own. Unless you can become everybody's but ourselves, we have to take stock and wherever possible, take protective and defensive measures to preserve the Barbadian identity, the Barbadian patrimony, Barbadian heritage, Barbadian built and man-made culture. Because your culture is everything about your real life, everything in your real life is your culture. But that to me is a fundamental responsibility that is on our shoulders now.
But GLYNE, if you pay attention, just in terms of the comment you just made, you pay attention to what's happening in the United Kingdom right now and what's happening in Europe right now as it relates to how, and no disrespect to any religion, that is not my purpose, but the point I'm making here is that the European Union are now standing up and saying, but we have people coming in from overseas taking over our countries. UK is now saying the same thing. This got to stop. People are now beginning to protest. 1 million people, I am told, GLYNE, protested over the weekend, and along with another cause, but protested against the government in United Kingdom regarding immigration and immigration policy, and the same thing is happening in Europe. And mind you, I think it is beginning on October the 1st, Remember the agreement for freedom of movement of people? Remember that that agreement that was made in I think it was Jamaica in the last CARICOM meeting, I think, to do with Barbados, St. Vincent, Dominica, Belize. There were 5 countries. I can't remember what the
For,
5th one is.
for,
Or 4.
and
It was
for
4?
the announcement of Barbados involved was made by the Prime Minister of Jamaica.
Yes. So we didn't know anything about it at all till that announcement was made. And now,
You
because
still don't know.
these people apparently will be able to come into Barbados. Not that we are not a welcoming society. We have always been a welcoming society. They will be able to come into Barbados, set up businesses, as domicile here, buy property, send children to school, all this kind of thing. This is a part of the entire perspective of the freedom of movement experiment, I call it, between these 4 countries. So our challenges are only now beginning, because you know that coming from some of these other countries, you're coming from St. Vincent, Dominica, people are used to beautiful views and whatnot. That's what they're going to be looking for here.
But
Before you come in, GLYNE, remember your last word. Are you aware up by the Arawak cement plant that there are subdivisions and roadways being put in up there? I went through one of them by mistake to realize that and I asked the person up there, and they said that it is a preparation to to sell off property up in that area, and it's beautiful, a beautiful view over the that would be what, the Atlantic.
Mhm.
The Atlantic, or just on the corner, you know, the Hippo,
yeah,
St. Lucie,
yeah,
Atlantic coming to the
Caribbean,
Caribbean
really,
Sea. A
yeah.
gorgeous view. We knew nothing about that.
What you said today is what, the 15th?
Today is the 15th of
And
September. Yes, sir.
this is supposed to come in effect for the 1st of
1st of
October.
October in another
So there's
15
another
days.
15 days. And what
Yeah.
have we been told? We don't know what the arrangement. We don't know the process. We don't know when one lands in Barbados, how they will process in order to authenticate it. Because we still have to have our guardrails up. And so we have no idea as to how you're going to absorb them in housing, in schools,
No.
in
And
nothing. Where will they go?
medical facilities in
You
nothing.
already have a shortage of housing in Barbados at all levels. Where will they go? Are you going to
And
create more slums?
a challenge in health, in terms of health facilities and the provision of proper health. You already have that as a challenge.
And nobody is telling us anything.
Nothing.
And I mean, I heard the Prime Minister talk about sending, if people like war, they find places to send them. But here you are already talking about a declining population. Even if that were feasible or made sense, you'll be further reducing the size of your population. You'll be compounding the problem. What I'm saying, again, we have not been treated with the courtesy of a sit down, laid out well, consistent, coherent, structured sequence plan you can follow. This makes sense. Oh yes, I feel confident. We see where the checks and balances. No need to worry about this, because no, we are just left to have to wait and see. That cannot be good enough in Barbados.
But you know, I'm challenged with the logic, right? There's some things that to me are not adding up, because we talk about climate change and the implications, you know, the hurricanes, etc., right? And I'm just wondering, why is it now that the lands adjacent to the sea are platinum, and the head of planning and development, the Prime Minister of Barbados, you know, takes command over development in those areas? What is interesting about it? And I'm puzzled, because when you go into the Calawash area, which is adjacent to the sea, when you come to the Cox Hill area, which is adjacent to the sea, when you come to the Jaws River area, which is adjacent to the sea, I want to ask, ma'am, what is her interest in these areas, because it seems to be rather ironic that there is potential danger in developing adjacent to the sea, but yet we may conclude that there's a large motley interest in that general area when we think of Catawash, Coxhill, and the George River area. That interest is being mobilized for that, what Mr. Murray said, clique of people. And the interest that is being shown by the leader of this country appears not to be for Bajans, but for certain cliques. And it is clearly evident, but what is ironic about it is that you're still on the world stage talking about the impacts of climate change, but yet in Barbados, you're doing things that appears to be counter to that. I am confused. Help me, Miss Prime Minister. I'm bothered.
Victor,
Yes, sir.
as you mentioned that, I started recall certain admonitions, certain things that the Prime Minister was from time to say, when we were talking about the cliques and whatnot. And he used to talk about afraid of not having a veranda government when certain members of cabinet will often bring certain topics or names or certain issues. He would say, I do not conduct a veranda government. My government is not dictated by what is discussed and decided at catwalks, on verandas, at lunches on the weekend. And that, even from those days, there were cliques forming who sought to exert undue influence on the decision-making processes in Barbados government. He had to stamp it out and stand there and work against it, against people who seem to be susceptible to being manipulated or influenced by these kind of forces.
Well,
So it seems as though we're living it all over again.
Let me inject here quickly, GLYNE. That is why I really commend you on the topic you mobilized tonight, because there's control. The control now that we are seeing in Barbados is because of that foundation. Decisions made for Barbados are made in Catawash. Continue.
But now, if I were still a practicing journalist, I myself would carry out a campaign where I would either myself or my reporters would not attend certain press conferences, until the Prime Minister sits down and sit down and give account to Barbados on certain specific subjects. I would just do it. And I tell you so because when I was a practicing journalist, I was based at the airport at one time. And that was my beat. And I used to interview Prime Minister Barrow. And no, he was a premier Barrow Prime Minister too, in and out. And I remember once he went to Brazil just before independence, when we had this controversy between and the 40s and the BLP and the DLP, independence alone as against independence with the Federation, right? And he went to Brazil and came back on an official visit. And came back, and I of course went to interview him at the airport. And I said, Prime Minister, what would you say is the major outcome of your visit to Brazil? He said, well, I told the people in Brazil that China had, in that time, China was having a cultural revolution. China has the Gang of Four or something, and Barbados got the Gang of Six, Henry Ford and Erskine Sanders. I said, Prime Minister, are you sure? He said, yes. He said, do you want me to believe that is all you can report to the public of Barbados about it? He said, yes. I said, but there has to be more. He said, no, my job is not to make news for you or the Advocate newspaper. I said, thank you, sir. Thank you. I did not interview him for 2 months. Every time I said, hello, sir, and I walked past him because I thought he was being disrespectful until he sent an emissary to call, he used to call me little man, bring that young man to me, we talk, and then I told him why. He said, okay, now I understand. So I'm saying there are certain pressures you can call. They need you just as much, they need the press as just as the press needs them. But you have to have standards, respect, and protocols, mutual respect to have, and that's what the press and Barbados fail do for the last 7 years with this guy, but have not have. But I deal with the straight press and tell you why. Maybe next time I'll talk about that, give you an indication of why we have the kind of press that we do.
Yeah. The fourth estate has failed us.
Well, we got 14 more minutes left on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Those of the loyal opposition, you still have an opportunity to call in 236-7000. Remember, preferably on WhatsApp, if you're able to do so, you can do that. Give us a call 236-7000. It's not too late to make your contribution or to express your concern or to ask the panel any questions. You can ask Mr. Lewis, Mr. Clark, or myself. If we don't have the answers, you can be sure that sometime in a future program you will get an answer to your question. But
Clark,
we want you to know.
I think you meant Marie.
Who?
Marie. You said Mr. Clark.
Oh no, sorry, my apology. Oh no, please. Oh my goodness. I deeply apologize.
No problem.
Mr. Murray. How
No
could
problem,
I make,
sir.
That's a slip of the tongue.
A Freudian slip.
And you know, the thing that I find very disingenuous, and I expressed it a few minutes ago, gentlemen and lady, because I believe Rose is back here with us. Rose, nice to see you back here. I know you've not been feeling the best, and it's still good to have you here with us. But you know, you are quick to establish yourself as being ready to chastise. And you ever watch that hand, GLYNE, when she's speaking? You ever watch that finger? You know, like she is a teacher and we're the students, and you gotta listen to me, you know, and because body language speaks volumes.
Of course.
People don't realize it, you know. What it's very intimidating, that hand, that finger, when you see her on the international stage and that finger is going, you know, maybe President Putin backs away or President Trump. I ain't going to mess with her, boy. I tell you,
trembling in their boots.
Trembling in their boots, you know. You are going to, let me say, I have kept very quiet, but in the next few months, I will call them all out. But you ain't prepared to be transparent and give account to the people of this country of your stewardship. And that, you see, I am fed up, GLYNE, and I apologize. I am sick and tired of accountability being given to a party grouping. The accountability is not your party, even though you represent the party in Parliament. There's no party in Parliament. It is the country of Barbados. And that is not where we are asking you to give accountability. Come out and face the people. Set up a meeting that is not a constituency meeting nor no town hall meeting. Set up a meeting where the people can come on fearlessly with you sitting alone. Because you walk the international stage alone and you answer Poor and all them other people alone. You should be able to answer the people of this country alone.
What we are long overdue, Ferdy, is that to have a real decent old time press conference where we decide on the topics and the press come and ask the question.
Which press?
Not a press.
Which press you talking about? I'm sorry.
The real press.
With all respect to our press, we need a Ricky Singh kind of reporter.
No, we got a David Ellis.
Yeah, David. I listened to David today too. But David, anyhow, don't let me say anything with David, because David is a buddy of mine. Don't want to take off my head on brass tacks. The David Ellis and the GLYNE Murrays, You think they would accept you in press corps?
I doubt. I doubt. But let me tell
You
you something.
know,
The point I was making, the Prime Minister came into office in 2018. And since then, she had one sit-down interview. What was the election in July 2018? About 3 months or so after she became Prime Minister with David Ellis. One. You see the kind of interview she had with Armand Porno. She had one in Barbados in 7 years with the Barbadian jury. We sit down and ask probing questions. And I remember it well because on 2 or 3 occasions when Mr. Ellis was pressing her on certain issues, she said, no, man, you practice on one-upmanship and one-upmanship. And that one-upmanship is where you don't want anybody to get on top of you or feel that they're superior or they're winning against. So she got very offended when he pressed her. And I remember that well, because that was characteristic of her persona. So I'm saying they need to do that. Otherwise, we are wasting time. And like next time or next Monday, I'll talk about put the current behavior or lack thereof of the modern press environment into context, because there are certain issues that started, I think, in 1999 that we are seeing the manifestation of it today, and that you would understand a lot of things better.
I
The
think
seeds were
we'll have
planted.
to. I think we'll have to put Rose in the press pool too,
Why
because
not?
I know Rose. I know Rose ain't Rose, huh? Rose ain't going to pull no punches. Rose, on mute there and join us now. Rose ain't going to pull no punches.
I want you to know that I am a graduate of the journalism course taught by the School of Continuing Studies back there in the 80s, taught by persons like Gladstone Holder and
What?
the greats, Mr. Murray, and I hold a
Wow!
certificate with distinction
Wow.
in
Wow!
journalism.
Star girl, man. Star
But boy,
girl.
we learned something tonight we didn't
So
know,
that
boy.
is why I know, and then my background in teaching
Yeah.
lends me to
Challenge,
doing
ask question,
research and
query.
asking
That's the
questions.
key. That's the key.
Yes.
Yes,
You're
but
asking questions.
I want to thank you, Pastor Ferdy, for allowing me to slip out. I really needed to eat because I deferred breakfast. So lunch was breakfast and there was nothing after lunch. And I really had to attend to my dietary needs before things got out of
Oh,
control.
you're so very
But
welcome.
I was listening. I heard you, Brother Victor, and my brother, my late brother, also was Victor, and the concerns. And I'm here saying that we are lamenting about where Barbados is going morally, but then we look at it physically in terms of our landscape, what is being taken away from us, what will be no more in the name of investing, in the name of building hotels, in the name of development. And I'm saying, is it that we're lamenting because we're in a certain age group, some older than others, but we are in that over 60 plus age group? And are we just reminiscing? Are we longing for the good old days? And what about the younger people? Will they miss these things? Or have they grown up in an environment where levy fed? So if I go to East Coast Road, it is not for the scenery, Victor. It's
Mhm.
not for the scenery, Pastor Ferdy or GLYNE. It is not to go and sit in up under the mud trees and look across Barclays Park out to the the sea. Um, Similarly in Bathsheba and other areas. And but when they go to East Coast Road, it's big stage. You understand what I'm saying? It's fetting, it's partying all afternoon long into the night. Similarly at Farley Hill, do
Mhm.
they stop to go up to the other side of Farley Hill and look over St. Peter? Um, do they see what we see? Will they miss what we have begun to miss and what we're seeing reclining and getting out of our reach? Um, because right now, for them, it is the botanical gardens, but is
Mhm.
the botanical, is it being used for nature relaxation? Or is it to put down some concrete and some pavers and party hardy? So we are here trying to reserve and preserve. And on the other hand, those who lead and who look more like them, young like them, speak their language, not preserving, not saying thus far and no further. No, take your hand off Joe's River. Take your hands off the East Coast Road. No more hotels on the vulnerable, fragile South Coast. Um, I am concerned about after all of our lamenting lamentation that is business as usual. We have a set of young people who are going to be more into their devices, more into AI, more into robotics, and will be hearing the words climate change, resilience, but the actions are contrary and contradictions to the mouthings and the narratives. This is what concerns me. What next? Are we fighting a battle to preserve something that will be tossed aside because it has no value, it has no nostalgia, it has no ownership by this set? Yes, it's true that there were some places that the bear houses and whatever on the East Coast um were owned, and the majority of them are still owned by the lighter hue. And persons of her complexion were going to cook the meals for them on Sunday and do the gardening. But at least we owned that area of sort. It was like part of our naval strength. But now all I can think of, Glenn, is the pavers that they put down now, the dancing in the mud at Farley Hill and the partying at East Coast. That is what we are handing to them as opposed to
Well,
the things that occupied Victor's mind and the things that were communicated to us and engaged us. That's my concern. And before I I I, I stop, I want to know what is the progress, where are we when after the Prime Minister's speech at the opening of the expansion of Bayview Hospital, where she said that the concessions given would be translated into services, health services for the Barbadian public. Um, does that have to be taken to the House of Parliament in the form of a bill, or is it
It's the Prime Minister's
gentleman's
word.
understanding that you'll do this?
It's the Prime Minister's word, Rose. The Prime Minister has spoken. There's no
She
need.
said
There's
it,
no
but
need
are
for
they
parliament.
acting on it? Since the opening, the expansion, have we been able to say, are we able to enumerate,
I,
identify that exchange of services from that institution towards the Barbadian public at large who would need that kind of service, and for whom these services have been promised in repair or in exchange for the concessions.
Right.
You
Yeah, Glenn.
understand it?
I'm trying to remember the figure. My mind is an 8 and a 5. There was some figure of services, but I queried the figure because it was not sure what services be applied. They have to go apply generally or specific technical services because it didn't seem to me the figure would last very long. But we never got any details of the granting. But if I go into my notes, I'll be able to find. I think it was mentioned in the press too. But Rose, you brought back some memories that go back into 1961 when you're talking about beach houses, etc. It reminded me that in the 1961 manifesto of the Democrat Labour Party, I think the cause was championed there by Winter Crawford. It was proposed that the government would build bare houses in certain parts of Barbados for the workers of Barbados to be able to enjoy the same facilities, the same benefits of nature. I remember
Wow.
1961. Do you remember that, Victor? They never materialized, but that was that. So, and I'm saying that all the young people I know love Barbados passionately. They might be distracted at this stage by fetting, etc. Because at that age, that is what you do.
Yeah.
I did the same thing too. But at the same, and their biggest fear in Barbados right now is seeing no future in Barbados
Correct.
professionally.
Correct.
To be able to
Correct.
buy a piece of the land, a piece of so they
Correct.
are aware of the scarcity of land, yet the cost of land, and the limited capacity and opportunities that they will most likely face in the future of trying to put that kind of stake to own their version of a piece of the rock in their lifetime.
But I'll tell you, Glenn, as I drove out, my wife and I drove out yesterday, we were just stunned at how much land Barbados has still. And on both sides of the divide, agriculturally and for housing. As we were out driving, you could see. I mean, St. John has rich, beautiful soil. We saw one or two places where the old-time rotavators used to turn up the mud. I used to love to go and sit down and just watch them plowing the ground, plowing the fields, and smelling the fresh smell of the mud.
Right,
But
right.
there is a practice that the Jews have that has never been grasped in terms of the Western culture, and that is the perpetuation of their culture and their practices, passed down from one generation to the other. And as we were out driving yesterday, my wife said to me, "You need to get your children and your grandchildren in a couple of vehicles with some walkie-talkies. Victor, you're listening? And come down through all the Cleavers Hills and all those areas that I used to walk through as a child." I showed her what those things are you made again with the wire and the stone. What you call them again?
The,
Gabians.
the Gabians.
Gabions.
Gabians.
I showed her yesterday Gabions my father and his team made in St. Andrew, down by Haggett's factory, which
And
is
they,
now a
and, they,
Ministry of Transport and Works depot.
and they're still there?
They're still there to this day, Glenn. They ain't budge an inch. A little bridge that when you drove out from Haggett's factory going up the hill, when you come out and you turn by where the soil conservation used to be with
Right,
all the beautiful fruit trees.
right.
I mean, tons and tons of fruit trees, and going up that little area up in there, we came across two bridges, and I said to her, "You see this bridge here? This used to flood. The water used to cover this every time the rain really fell. It used to cover this." And I showed the Gibeons. I said, "Look, my dad was responsible for this. My dad, because I was a little fella then. You know how we used to tag along
Right.
for everything happening. And she said to me, "You need to bring your children and your
Yeah.
grandchildren and share with us." So, Rose, maybe this is something that we older ones need to embrace. where we take our children, our grands, or whatever, whoever they are, and take a drive out with them and begin to share with them the value of our country, which is more than just your house or your job or whatever. And you said something just no, Glyne, that resonated with me, because Arthur Arthur said to the young people, I don't know if you were in the meeting at the time, but this would have been the 2008 general election, I think it was, that he lost, when he met with the young people at St. Michael's School.
Right,
And
right, yeah.
one of the things I remember him saying to them was not to restrict their job opportunities just to Barbados, but to pay attention to opportunities, because, as you know, he lectured in Jamaica. I know of him going to the Cayman Islands on one occasion to discuss matters to do with VAT there, and so he was trying to encourage them to spread their
But
interest. You
Freddie,
know,
there's a difference between you were talking about immigration, really. There are push and pull factors.
yes, yes,
Right? So it is different if something is pulling you as against something from Barbie. The lack of
pushing you.
opportunity pushing you
Yes,
away
yeah,
is a
which
different
is
psychological approach.
yes, it is. It is. And I know somebody personally, and I'm very honest with you. I know somebody personally who is setting their eyes on leaving the country to work overseas. They don't see a future here for them. They don't. And it's like we're losing. Was it a brain drain? Is what they
Mhm.
call it. We're losing a lot of our youth. A lot of. I mean, when I'm in the
And
Cayman Islands, every time I run into a police officer, he's either a Jamaican or a Bajan. When I run into teachers, Bajan.
but but apart from that, Freddie, that same generation you're talking about um,
Yeah.
are not interested. That's one of the reasons why they're not interested in having children, because they say it's too expensive. They
Yes.
cannot. I
Yes.
mean, Sam Dunwood said, I can't risk it.
Oh,
Not with the
Jerry.
cost of living. So all these are inhibiting factors
Yes.
that makes a difference, that make a difference in people's lives.
Yes, absolutely. Well, listen, guys, uh, you won't believe it. I know, look, I'm gonna see the clock at
Man, let
10:07.
me talk. We talk, do man.
You want me? Listen, you want me to lose my job? I
By,
got my.
I say I've seen the program with a 10, 20,
Pastor
10,
Purdy,
25 and whatnot,
Pastor
man.
Purdy, be careful. Do not say that you will lose your job.
Oh,
There's
true.
a
Thank you. Thank
perception
you.
out there that
Yeah, yeah.
we are paid, and you heard
Yeah.
what was
No.
said in that speech, that
Yes.
they are coming for us later down. Who pull down, pull down, pull down.
No.
Now
Yeah.
you're taking
I am
away
saying
my
that.
gratuity.
Oh, dear
Listen, well,
Lord.
let her come out, because all they would do is make me expose a lot more things that I am just holding. So let it interfere with me. No lies. I don't lie. I don't exaggerate. I don't minimize. I tell you as I remember and saw it and read and heard it. So let
Well,
them trouble is Lee Murray son. And see what
I
happens.
would I would take it that all of our comments over the last few minutes are our closing closing comments, because I know
Man,
I know if I open up this to closing comments, we're going up to 10:30, and I ain't able.
man, you
I ain't
can't, man.
doing that. I
They
ain't
gotta
doing
give me,
that.
they
I'm
gotta give me, they
sorry.
gotta give me 30 seconds as man.
Well,
As man.
you wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me get my stopwatch. Let me get my you wait a minute. Let me get my stopwatch. When my stopwatch is right, I got my stopwatch right. I can give each of you a 30-second closing, starting with you, Victor. Go, Victor.
And
No, no,
Ferdy,
no,
they
no, no,
could
no,
have
no,
my
no, no,
30
no,
seconds.
no, no,
They
no.
can
You,
have
you, you,
mine.
no. You wait. You interrupt Victor's 30 seconds.
I,
You
I
go on,
get it.
Victor. Go on.
She's giving away
You
her,
ready?
I
she's
No,
get
giving
she
away
half
her
ain't
a
giving
30.
away.
run, so I
She ain't
get half
giving
a
away
run, so I
nothing.
got 45 seconds.
She ain't giving away nothing. We got her 30 seconds. You ready, Victor? Victor, go.
Yeah, yeah,
Go,
man.
Victor.
We really need some help in St. Joseph, and I really want to call on the water authority to take, account, because the what's happening in Calawash area is bad, it's poor, You know, it's far beyond expectation in 2025 that we don't have technology to see this work being done better. You know, when Marie and Rose was commenting there just now, I am very concerned about the fourth estate. You know, I heard a program with David Ellis. He was commenting relative to a question as to, you know, the role of the fourth estate as far as the development of Barbados is concerned. And it's quite interesting to see how he diverted the conversation with the view that the Auditor General's report could suffice in terms of the actual role that the fourth estate would have played in the development of Barbados. I think it is poor. I think we need to have that fourth estate reestablished, and I would call upon Rose and Mr. Murray to dust off your desk and return to some proper journalism in this country.
Well, you see, Glenn, he's a Pentecostal fella. He went 1 minute and 13 seconds.
but for
Glenn, your closing comments.
let's
go.
You can't don't come yet. I just let you know that I also have a religious background. I also got saved when I go 11 or 12 years.
Oh,
so
you
got saved. It didn't last very long, but I got saved, so I have status.
You got scared. No, I'm not sure I should even give you a chance. And then if you get saved, then you got all this that can go.
I will tell you that story another night. No, but I think
go ahead.
I thought tonight was a very productive night. I think we were able to get a lot of areas that were begging for to be addressed. I think we have to go back. We have to go back to the Civic Center in Spitestown and the landlord by Trent. We have to ask for the status of Hyatt. What is on study on Hyatt? Hyatt like it cursed.
Yes. Yes.
Like it's cursed. Because it was a start every month, year, and nothing's been. So we need follow-up on these things to keep it before the
people.
What you learn in public relations, you learn that a matter only becomes an issue because of the publicity given, the frequency you keep it in public mind, and they're forced to concentrate. So we cannot do these one-off things and come back sick. We have to have a steady stream to force it into public consciousness, and that would educate people about it and get further support. But next week, I will deal with the question of the press in Barbados at this stage.
Wonderful. You know, Victor, he did a little better than you as he he only went 53 seconds, so he beat you. So let me see now if Rose, let me see how good Rose is going to be. Rose, you got that 53 seconds to beat.
Not about here. Not about here. Your solution, Madam Prime Minister, is not to shit our young people who are involved in crime and criminal behaviors to places where wars exist. Find a solution. And I know that you know where the problem exists and how it should be dealt with. And if you don't, go to the DLP 146-page report on how to deal with it. But not about here. Not about here for Victor. Not about here for us. Not about here for Barbadians who love Barbados. Not about here.
Well, that is right smack bang between you and you, GLYNE, and Victor. 1 minute and 3 seconds. So
well done.
She's done very well. So now it is my turn. So let me reset and go. Well, folk, it was a joy having you all here with us tonight. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, GLYNE. Thank you, Rose. It's been another great show, great educational evening. But I'm going to beat my well-known record and complete in under 30 seconds. God bless you all.
Good night.
Those
Good
of you
night.
on the
Nice,
loyal
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Until next time.
sons and daughters
Pleasure.
all.
All right.
Absolutely. God bless you. Have a great night.
Good night.
You
Good night.
29 seconds, guys.
I felt
should stop saying Kaiso. Cause since Junior Monarch, I ain't had no bite. That's what they say. Bashment and soca is the thing for Dynamo. Because Calypso, I just struggle to write. Some tell me don't come bout and play that direct in politics. Cause I don't have a clue, but that's too big for you. So I really had to take care while I was writing this song. Because I didn't want to hear the things I writing were wrong. I write that this small country does borrow too much money. I hear don't write that. You're wrong about that. I write that our leaders like them may have no answers. I hear don't write that. You're wrong about that. Every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write that Barbadians regret. The government tell me like every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write some MPs who fail, holding on to me a coattail every time I write around, every time I write around. So I really don't know how long I can take to finish this song, cause every time I write around. Bloody horn! I write that you should protect yourself against these criminals, crooks, and these gunmen. We should get tasers!
Furthermore, you can't write that. The commissioner said to cooperate.
I convince myself to keep writing, but leave out all of the politics. I see society malfunctioning, so that should be an easy topic. Blind men could see that crime overweight and out of hand, while paychecks undersized, murders and prices on the rise. I had a rush of ideas, so I started to write them down. But then I heard a voice say, the things are right and are wrong. I write that many Barbadians living in sufferation. I hear don't write that. You're wrong about that. People can't feed them children, but me I can't spare $1 million. Don't write that. You're wrong about that. Every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write that killings increase, since the government pay for peace. Every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write people don't get killed in Sandy Lane or Ames Hill. Every time I write around, every time I write. So I really don't know how long I can take to finish this song, cause every time I write around. Bloody hard. I write. If you're scared of road, you get spoiled, child. Beat them.
Boy, you hear you can't write them things. You're gonna want them trying to beat you like that, beat the teachers.
I kept on searching for an angle so that my song will go in the dump. I hear right about somebody controversial, so I thought, who better than Donald Trump? But I say I ain't writing about no American, when I can see and tell the only there's mad as hell. So I already knew before penning my opinion, some people would have the view the things are right and are wrong. I write MPs that's here when the woman tell them, no, don't write that. You're wrong about that. I write some bees that's teeth bold, but only these that's get whole. I hear don't write that. You're wrong about that. Every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write who bringing in guns, cause the cowboys are Indians. Every time I write around, every time I write around, if I write these guns to sleep, tell me how them game gonna sleep. Every time I write around, every time I write around, so I might as well just go along and try to write the next song, cause every time I write around. Bloody hard.
Furthermore, you're wrong.
Why what can be that song? I mean you're right, but you're still wrong.
the Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, be gracious unto you, lift up the light of his countenance upon you, and give you a peaceful, prosperous, protective night's rest. Amen.
Good
God
night
bless
to
you,
all,
and good
Auntie.
night to all.
Good night, peoples.
Good night.